It is 3 in the morning. The world outside is still, wrapped in a blanket of darkness and silence. But inside your mind, a storm is raging. Thoughts of work, of bills to be paid, of conversations from yesterday, and worries about tomorrow chase each other in an endless, frantic loop. There is no peace here, only a silent, exhausting battle fought on the pillow. This experience, this quiet prison of the restless mind, is one of the great, unspoken sufferings of our modern age. We see it as a personal failure, a glitch in our biology, something to be fixed with a pill or a new sleep tracking app. But what if this sleeplessness is not the disease itself, but a symptom of a much deeper imbalance? We live in a civilization that worships activity, that measures our worth by our productivity, that drowns us in a constant flood of information and digital noise. We are conditioned to relentlessly pursue the next goal, the next purchase, the next momentary pleasure, leaving us in a perpetual state of wanting and a perpetual state of low-grade anxiety. Our minds have forgotten how to be still. Our bodies have forgotten how to truly rest. This exhaustion is not just stealing our sleep, it is stealing our lives, one restless night at a time. But there exists an ancient path, a different way of being. It does not offer a quick fix, but a deep, lasting transformation. It is a path laid down thousands of years ago, a science of the mind that offers a set of practical, timeless tools to calm the inner storm. This is the wisdom of the Buddhist tradition, offered not as a religion to adopt, but as a clear and compassionate map to the landscape of your own mind. It is an invitation to gently turn inward, to understand the nature of your own thoughts and emotions, and to cultivate a stillness that cannot be disturbed by the chaos of the world. It is a journey that promises not just the deep, restorative sleep your body craves, but an awakening to a more peaceful, present, and empowered way of living. That voice in the night, the one that refuses to be silent, the relentless narrator of past mistakes and future fears, the frantic planner, the merciless critic, the frightened child, all speaking at once in the vast, quiet theater of your mind. For centuries, humanity has struggled with this inner turmoil, this invisible agitation that steals our rest and colors our waking lives with a subtle hum of anxiety. We often think it is a sign of a personal flaw, a weakness in our character, or a modern affliction born of our fast-paced world. But this is a fundamentally human condition. Over 2,500 years ago, the Buddha gave this phenomenon a name. He looked at the way our attention leaps from one subject to another, without reason, without our permission, and he called it the monkey mind. It is perhaps the most perfect metaphor ever conceived for the untrained state of our consciousness. Imagine a monkey swinging wildly from branch to branch in a dense jungle. It never rests on one branch for more than a moment. It sees a fruit here, a flash of color there, hears a sound in the distance, and it is gone, propelled by impulse and distraction. This is our mind in its natural state. A thought about a work email leads to a memory of a colleague's comment, which triggers a feeling of insecurity that then reminds you of a childhood failure, which then leaps to a worry about your children's future. There is no logic, no order, only a chaotic, exhausting chain of associations. But the Buddha's description was even more vivid and more terrifyingly accurate. He said to imagine that this monkey is not just swinging, but it is also drunk. Its movements are clumsy, its perceptions are distorted. It misjudges the distance between branches. It sees threats where there are none. This is our mind clouded by the intoxicants of modern life, by the constant stream of biased news, by the curated perfection of social media, by the desires and aversions that society tells us we must have. Our thinking becomes impaired. Our view of reality is skewed. and we stumble through our mental world with a profound lack of clarity. And then, as if that were not enough, the Buddha adds one final, crucial element. This drunken monkey has also been stung by a scorpion. Now there is pain. Now there is fear. Now there is panicked, agonizing frenzy. The scorpion's venom is the poison of our unresolved emotional wounds. It is the sting of jealousy when we see another succeed. It is the throb of resentment from an old argument. It is the sharp pang of shame from a past mistake. It is the deep, cold venom of fear, fear of illness, fear of loss, fear of not being good enough. So now, the monkey is not just swinging, not just drunk, but it is screeching in agony, lashing out, fleeing from a pain that is inside itself. This is the state of our mind in the dead of night, drunk on confusion, poisoned by past pains and future fears, swinging uncontrollably through the dark jungle of our own consciousness. During the day, we can often ignore the monkey's frantic movements. The world provides an endless supply of external branches. Our jobs, our errands, our conversations, our screens, our entertainment. We keep the monkey occupied, distracted by the constant demands on our attention. We are so busy, we don't have time to notice the internal chaos. But then, the night comes. The world goes quiet. The distractions fall away. The screens go dark. Suddenly, there are no more external branches to grasp. And so, the monkey turns inward. It begins to swing through the only jungle left, the jungle of our own mind. And in the profound silence of the night, its screeching seems 1,000 times louder. The venom of the scorpion seems 1,000 times more potent. The darkness becomes a projector screen, and the monkey plays our worst fears on a loop, each image seeming utterly real, utterly convincing. This is why the night can feel like a trial. We are left alone with the drunken, poisoned monkey in our own head. There is an ancient story that perfectly illustrates how we become trapped by this mind. A hunter in India devised a clever way to catch monkeys. He would take a coconut or a gourd and drill a hole in it just large enough for a monkey to slide its open hand through. Inside the gourd, he would place a handful of rice or some other treat the monkeys loved. He would then tie the gourd to the base of a tree and wait. Sooner or later, a monkey would come along, smell the rice, and slip its hand through the narrow opening. It would grasp the rice, making a fist. But now, with its hand clenched into a fist, it could not pull it out. The hole was too small. The monkey would pull and pull, screeching in frustration, but it would not be able to free itself. You would think the solution is simple. All the monkey has to do is let go of the rice. If it would only open its fist, its hand would slide out easily, and it would be free. But its desire for the rice, its attachment to what it is holding, is so strong that it cannot bring itself to let go. And so, it remains trapped, a prisoner of its own fist, until the hunter returns. We are that monkey. The gourd is the difficult situation, the sleepless night. The rice is the thought that we believe is so important. It is the worry about our finances. It is the grievance against a family member. It is the obsessive planning for a future that has not happened. It is the harsh self-judgment for something we did long ago. We reach into our minds and we grasp this thought. We clench our mental fist around it, turning it over and over, examining it from every angle. We believe that if we just think about it hard enough, we can solve it, control it, or understand it. But in the act of grasping, we become trapped. Our fist, clenched around the thought, is now too big to escape the confines of our own anxious mind. We pull and we struggle, generating more tension, more frustration, more exhaustion. We are not being held captive by the thought itself. We are being held captive by our own refusal to let go. The freedom is right there, available in every single moment. The freedom is in the simple, radical act of unclenching our mental fist. The freedom is in letting go of the rice. This is the first and most profound shift in perspective that this path offers. It is the realization that you are not the monkey, you are not your thoughts. For your entire life, you have likely believed that you are the voice in your head. You have identified with its dramas, its fears, its opinions, its endless chatter. But this is a case of mistaken identity. You are not the frantic, drunken, poisoned monkey. You are the deep, silent awareness that is watching the monkey. You are the sky, and the thoughts are merely clouds passing through. You are the quiet, spacious jungle through which the monkey swings. The moment you realize this, everything begins to change. You no longer have to fight the monkey, or silence it, or drug it into submission. Your task is much simpler and much more compassionate. Your task is to simply watch it. You create a small space of separation between you, the observer, and the thought, the observed. When a worrisome thought about work appears, you don't have to grab it. You don't have to become it. You can simply note its presence with a gentle, non-judgmental curiosity. You can say to yourself, there is the monkey swinging on the work worry branch. When a painful memory arises, you don't have to dive into it and relive the pain. You can observe it as a cloud passing through the sky of your awareness. There is the painful memory cloud. This act of observing, of naming, of seeing the thought as an object separate from yourself is the beginning of wisdom. It is the beginning of freedom. It takes the power away from the thought and returns it to you. You are no longer tossed about by every impulse of the monkey mind. You are becoming the calm, stable center of your own being. We have now named the source of our nightly turmoil. We have seen its chaotic nature, and we have learned how our own grasping is the mechanism of the trap. We have been introduced to a new way of relating to our minds, not as a master to be obeyed, but as a phenomenon to be observed with gentle awareness. But simply observing is just the beginning. To find true peace, we must look deeper. We must ask, where does the scorpion's venom, this deep-seated anxiety that fuels the monkey's frenzy, truly come from? What are the fundamental roots of our unease? Understanding this is the next step on our journey from restlessness to rest. To understand the frenzy of the monkey mind is one thing, but to calm it, we must look deeper. We must become like a skilled physician and diagnose the root cause of the agitation. The monkey is agitated because it is drunk and poisoned. But what is the nature of that poison? What is the fundamental ailment that keeps us trapped in a cycle of stress and sleeplessness? The Buddha himself approached this question not as a mystic, but as a doctor of the mind. His first and most essential teaching, delivered after his own awakening, was a framework so clear, so practical, it has been called one of the most profound medical diagnoses ever offered. It is known as the Four Noble Truths. This is not a set of beliefs to be accepted on faith. It is a clinical, four-step analysis of our condition, identifying the illness, discovering its cause, confirming a cure is possible, and prescribing the treatment. The first noble truth is the diagnosis of the illness itself. The ancient Pali word for it is dukkha. This word is often translated as suffering, which can sound dramatic and pessimistic to our modern ears, but its meaning is far more subtle and universal. Dukkha is the pervasive sense of dissatisfaction that runs through our lives. It is the feeling that things are not quite right. It is the friction of existence, the low-grade stress, the subtle hum of anxiety. It is the grand tragedy of loss, but it is also the minor frustration of being stuck in traffic. In the context of our nightly struggles, dukkha is unmistakable. It is the racing heart as you lie in the dark. It is the tightening in your chest when you see the clock read 3 a.m. It is the despairing thought, not again. It is the exhaustion and misery of being awake, when all you want is the sweet relief of oblivion. The first truth is simply a call to be honest, to look squarely at our experience and acknowledge, without judgment, that this state of dis-ease is present. It is not an admission of failure. It is the brave first step a patient takes when they finally say to the doctor, "Something is wrong." The second noble truth is the etiology, the discovery of the cause. If dukkha is the illness, what creates it? The Buddha was clear that the cause is not external. It is not your job, your finances, or your noisy neighbors. Those are merely conditions. The true root of our disquiet, he said, is an internal habit of mind called tanha, which translates as thirst, craving, or clinging. This clinging takes two primary forms. The first is attachment, the desperate grasping for things to be different than they are. When you are lying awake, this is the intense, desperate craving for sleep. I must sleep now, the mind screams. I need to fall asleep, or tomorrow will be ruined. This very craving, this white-knuckled demand for a specific outcome, creates immense mental and physical tension. It floods your body with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, the very chemicals that are designed to keep you awake and alert. The more desperately you chase sleep, the more energetically sleep runs from you. You are clinging to an idea in your head, the idea of a perfect, peaceful night, and that clinging is the source of your torment. The second form of clinging is the flip side of the coin, aversion. It is the active resistance to what is actually happening. As you lie there, an anxious thought appears. Your immediate reaction is to fight it, to push it away. No, I don't want to think about that now. A physical sensation arises, perhaps a tightness in your stomach. You resist it, you try to ignore it, or wish it away. This resistance is a battle, and every battle is an act of stress. You are at war with the reality of the present moment. You have an enemy, and that enemy is your own experience. This internal war is profoundly exhausting. It is what transforms the simple state of being awake into a state of agonizing turmoil. The cause of our suffering, then, is not the sleeplessness itself. It is our craving for it to be gone, and our aversion to the fact that it is here. There is a powerful story the Buddha told to illustrate this. He said to imagine a man being struck by an arrow. This is painful. This is the first arrow. It is an unavoidable part of life. Sometimes, things happen that are unpleasant, like illness, loss, or the simple fact of being unable to sleep. This first arrow is dukkha, the unavoidable friction of existence. But then, the man does something strange. He takes out a second arrow, and he deliberately shoots himself in the very same spot. This second arrow is our reaction to the first. It is our mental commentary, our judgment, our fear. The first arrow was the physical sensation of being awake. The second arrow is the thought, "This is a disaster. I am so weak for not being able to sleep. My whole week is ruined. I can't stand this." The pain of the first arrow is unavoidable, but the pain of the second arrow is entirely optional. It is self-inflicted. Our suffering, our true anguish, almost never comes from the first arrow. It comes from the thousands of second arrows we fire at ourselves, day and night. The entire practice of finding peace is learning to feel the sting of the first arrow without reaching for the second. This leads us to the third noble truth, which is the prognosis. And the prognosis is one of profound hope. The Buddha states, with the confidence of a master physician, that there is a cure. There can be an end to our self-inflicted suffering. This is called nirodha, the cessation of dukkha. This does not mean that we will create a life where there are no first arrows. We will still get sick, we will still face loss, and we will still have nights where sleep is elusive. The cessation of suffering means the end of firing the second arrow. It is the end of craving and aversion. It is the uprooting of the habit of clinging. Imagine, for a moment, lying in bed. You are awake. You feel the aliveness in your body, the flow of your breath. A thought arises. You notice it, but you don't cling to it. You don't resist it. You don't fire a second arrow of judgment at it. You are simply awake, and you are at peace with being awake. This is Nirodha. It is a radical freedom that is not dependent on external condition. It is a peace that can be found even in the midst of a sleepless night. The goal shifts from trying to manipulate the world to fall asleep, to cultivating a state of mind that is peaceful whether we are asleep or awake. This peace, this end of our inner war, is possible for every one of us. The fourth noble truth, then, is the prescription. It is the treatment plan to achieve this cure. It is called the Noble Eightfold Path, or MAGA. It is a comprehensive and practical guide to living that, step by step, dismantles the habits of clinging and cultivates the qualities of peace, wisdom, and compassion. It is not a set of commandments, but a set of recommendations, like a doctor suggesting diet, exercise, and medicine. It is a path of cultivating right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. We do not need to delve into all 8 parts right now. What is important to understand is that there is a structured, logical, and time-tested path that leads directly from the chaos of the monkey mind to the tranquility of Nirodha. The practices we will explore, the tools we will learn to use, are all facets of this beautiful and holistic prescription for a life of greater peace. So, we have received our diagnosis. We have seen that our dis-ease, our dukkha, is real. We have discovered its root cause in our own inner habits of clinging and resisting, our tendency to constantly fire second arrows at ourselves. We have been given the hopeful prognosis that a cure, a profound state of peace, is attainable, and we have been handed the prescription, the path to that cure. This path is not an abstract theory to be debated. It is a set of practical skills to be developed. It is a journey to be walked, and that journey begins not with a great leap, but with a single, simple step. It begins with the most fundamental, most accessible, and most powerful tool we possess. A tool that is with us from the moment of our birth to the moment of our death. It begins with our breath. We have walked through the physician's consulting room. We have received the diagnosis of our inner disquiet. We understand its cause lies in our own habits of mind, and we hold the profound hope of a cure, along with the prescription of a path to get there. But a prescription is useless until we take the first dose of medicine. A path is just a map until we take the first step. The first step on this path, the first dose of this healing medicine, is not something complex or exotic. It is the most intimate, humble, and constant companion of our lives. It is our own breath. Think of your mind as a small boat on a vast, stormy ocean. The waves are your thoughts and emotions, rising and falling in endless succession. The winds of the past and the gales of the future push and pull your small boat, driving it into chaotic, unpredictable waters. You feel lost, out of control, at the mercy of the elements. In this terrifying storm, what you need more than anything is an anchor that is heavy enough, strong enough to hold your boat steady, to allow it to rest in one place despite the turmoil on the surface. The breath is this anchor. It is always with you, operating silently in the background of your life. It functions only in the present moment. You cannot breathe in the past. You cannot breathe in the future. Each breath is a physical, tangible event that is happening right now. By placing your attention on the simple, physical reality of your breathing, you drop anchor into the deep, calm waters of the present moment, the only place where true peace can be found. The practice is one of radical simplicity. There is no special technique to master, no complex posture to hold. You can do this right now, wherever you are. If you are sitting, allow your back to be straight but not rigid. If you are lying in bed, simply allow your body to be comfortable. Gently allow your eyes to close, or lower your gaze to soften your focus on the world outside. Now, without changing anything at all, simply bring your awareness to the fact that you are breathing. For a few moments, just notice it. Notice the air entering your body, and notice the air leaving your body. To help anchor your attention, you might choose to rest your focus on one specific place. Perhaps you can bring your awareness to the very tip of your nostrils. Feel the subtle sensation of the air as it passes through. You might notice a slight coolness as the air comes in, and a slight warmth as the air goes out. There is no need to imagine it. Just feel the raw physical sensation of it. The coolness of the in-breath, the warmth of the out-breath. Stay with this simple, delicate sensation. Or you might find it easier to rest your attention on your abdomen. You can even place a hand gently on your belly. Feel the gentle, rhythmic rising as the breath flows in, filling your lungs, and feel the soft, gentle falling as the breath flows out, rise and fall, expansion and release. Do not try to control the breath. Do not try to make it deeper or slower. Your only task is to let the breath be exactly as it is, and to rest your attention upon its natural rhythm, like a butterfly resting on a flower. What you are doing is more than just a mental exercise. You are actively changing your own physiology. Your nervous system has two main branches. There is the sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight response. This is the system that gets activated by stress, by the monkey mind, by the second arrows we fire at ourselves. It releases adrenaline and cortisol, increases the heart rate, and tenses the muscles, preparing us for a perceived threat. Then there is the parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest response. This is the system of calm, healing, and restoration. The simple, conscious act of focusing on the slow, rhythmic movement of the breath sends a powerful signal from the body to the brain. The signal says, all is well, we are safe. There is no tiger to fight, no emergency to flee. In response to this signal, the brain begins to deactivate the fight or flight system and activate the rest and digest system. Your heart rate begins to slow, your blood pressure drops, your muscles begin to release their unconscious tension. You are not forcing yourself to relax. You are simply creating the biological conditions for relaxation to arise naturally. You are using the breath as a key to unlock your body's own innate capacity for peace. Now, it is essential to understand one thing. As you do this, your mind will wander. It is guaranteed. That is what minds do. After a few breaths, you will find that the monkey has grabbed your attention and swung off on a branch of thought, a memory, a plan, or a worry. You will suddenly realize that for the last several minutes, you have not been watching your breath at all, but have been lost in a story. Please, listen to this carefully. The moment you realize your mind has wandered is not a moment of failure. It is the single most important moment of the practice. It is a moment of pure mindfulness. In that moment, you have woken up. So, what do? You do not get angry or frustrated with yourself. You do not scold the monkey. That would just be another second arrow. Instead, with the kindness and patience you would show to a small puppy that has wandered off, you gently acknowledge where the mind has gone, and then you softly, tenderly guide your attention back to the anchor, back to the feeling of the breath, back to the rising and the falling of the abdomen. That is the entire practice. The breath, the wandering, the gentle noticing, and the kind return, over and over again. Each time you return your attention to the breath, it is like doing one repetition of a workout for your brain. You are strengthening the neural pathways of focus, patience, and self-compassion. You are weakening the old, automatic pathways of distraction and anxiety. There is a wonderful old story that illustrates this taming process. It is the story of a farmer and a wild water buffalo. The untamed mind is like a huge, powerful, wild water buffalo. It thrashes about, destroying the farmer's fields, running wherever it pleases. The farmer knows he cannot overpower the buffalo with brute force, so instead he gets a very strong stake and a long rope. He drives the stake deep into the ground. This stake represents the breath. The rope represents mindfulness, our gentle attention. He manages to tie one end of the rope to the buffalo and the other to the stake. At first, the buffalo is furious. It pulls and strains, running to the very end of the rope in every direction, trying to break free. This is exactly like our mind when we first try to be still. It pulls against the anchor of the breath, desperate to run off into its usual patterns of thought. But the farmer is patient. He just makes sure the stake is secure and the rope is strong. He lets the buffalo run. Eventually, after testing the rope again and again, the buffalo grows tired. It realizes it cannot escape its tether, and finally, it gives up the struggle and lies down peacefully at the foot of the stake. The mind, too, when it is gently but persistently tethered to the breath, eventually gives up its struggle. The frantic energy subsides, and it learns to rest in the stillness of the present moment. The breath is your rope and your anchor. It is the tool that allows you to stop being a victim of your own mind and to start becoming its gentle caretaker. It is the path back to the safety of the present moment, away from the ghosts of the past and the phantoms of the future. When you are lying in bed and the storm of thoughts begins, you now have a choice. You can let the boat be tossed about, or you can drop anchor. Gently, you can turn your attention to the simple, physical reality of the air moving in and out of your body. You do not have to make the thoughts go away. You simply have to give your attention a more peaceful place to rest. As we anchor our awareness in the breath, we begin to inhabit our bodies in a new way. We start to notice that the body is not just a machine for carrying our head around. It is a vast and intricate landscape in its own right. A landscape that holds the history of our stress, our tension, and our unspoken fears. To deepen our rest, we must now learn to travel through this inner landscape, not with judgment, but with gentle, healing attention. We must learn to listen to the wisdom of the body. Having found our anchor in the constant, rhythmic tide of the breath, we have created a small island of stillness in the midst of the stormy sea of our mind. From this place of relative calm, we can now embark on a deeper exploration. For too long, we, in the modern world, have lived as if we were disembodied minds, treating our bodies as mere vehicles to carry our heads from one appointment to the next. We have forgotten that the mind and body are not two separate things, but a single, unified whole. The body is the physical manifestation of our mental and emotional life. Every unspoken worry, every moment of frustration, every surge of anger leaves a subtle residue, a physical imprint. It is the unconscious clenching in your jaw, the chronic tightness in your shoulders, the shallow breathing that you have come to accept as normal. The body keeps the score, and in its tissues and muscles, it holds the history of our stress. To find deep rest, we must learn to listen to its silent language. Imagine that your body is a house. It is the only home you will ever truly have. Yet, most of us spend all of our time in just one or two rooms, usually the noisy, cluttered attic of the thinking mind. We have neglected the rest of the house for so long that many of its rooms have fallen into darkness. The furniture is covered in dust. The corners are filled with the cobwebs of old tension. We are almost afraid to go into them, unsure of what we might find. The practice of the body scan is like taking a set of keys and a gentle lantern and deciding to go on a slow, curious, and compassionate tour of our own home. The intention is not to judge the mess or to immediately start a frantic, deep clean. The intention is simply to open each door, shine a soft light into each room, and to see, with kindness, what is actually there. To begin this practice, find a position of comfort and ease, ideally lying on your back. There is no need for a rigid posture. Let your legs be uncrossed, your feet falling gently outwards. Let your arms rest by your sides, perhaps a little away from your body, with the palms facing up as a gesture of receptivity, or facing down if that feels more grounding. Allow your body to feel heavy, to be supported completely by the surface beneath it. Gently close your eyes. For a few moments, just rest here, bringing your awareness back to the anchor of your breath, noticing the gentle rising and falling of your abdomen. Now, as if holding a soft lantern of awareness, gently guide your attention all the way down your body, down your left leg, to your left foot. Bring your entire focus to your left foot. Without wiggling your toes, see if you can feel them. Bring your awareness into the big toe, the second toe, the third, the fourth, and the little toe. Just notice whatever sensations are present. You might feel a tingling, a warmth, a coolness, a pulsation. You might feel the pressure of a sock or the touch of the air. You might feel nothing at all, a sense of numbness, and that is perfectly fine. Numbness is also a sensation to be observed with kindness. Now bring your awareness into the sole of your left foot, the arch, the heel where it makes contact with the surface beneath you. Just feel, just notice, and as you breathe in, imagine you could breathe a sense of gentle curiosity into your left foot. As you breathe out, imagine a letting go, a softening. When you are ready, gently shift the lantern of your awareness across to your right foot and begin the same process of exploration. The toes of the right foot, the sole, the heel, the top of the foot. Patiently, kindly, you are simply asking the question, what is here? And you are listening quietly for the answer, without any judgment. Now, begin to allow your awareness to move slowly up your body. Feel into your ankles, your lower legs, the shin bones, and the calf muscles. These muscles work so hard for us all day. Can you meet them with a sense of gratitude, of gentle interest? Notice any tightness, any soreness, any ache. You do not need to make it go away. Simply notice it. Shine the soft light of your attention upon it. Breathe into it. Let your awareness travel up into your knees, and then into the large, powerful muscles of your thighs, both the front and the back. Continue upwards into the area of your pelvis, your hips, your buttocks. This is an area where we often hold deep, unconscious tension. Just feel the weight of your body here, the solid points of contact. Now, bring your attention to your abdomen. Feel the soft belly rising and falling with each breath. Be aware of the vast world of sensation within, the subtle gurgling and shifting of your inner organs. We so often hold our stomach in, bracing against the world. For these few moments, can you let it be soft? Can you let it be vulnerable? Gently guide your awareness upwards into your chest. Feel the movement of your ribs expanding with the in-breath and releasing with the out-breath. See if you can feel the steady, rhythmic beating of your heart within your chest, a faithful drum that has been beating for you every moment of your life. Let your awareness spread across your upper back and your shoulder blades. So much of the world's weight seems to land here. Notice any knots, any tightness, any hardness. You do not have to fix it. Just meet it with your warm, accepting attention. The simple act of noticing is a profound act of kindness. Now, let your awareness flow down your left arm, through the upper arm, the elbow, the forearm, the wrist, and into your left hand. Feel the palm of your hand, the back of the hand, and each finger one by one. Then, repeat this gentle journey on the right side, letting your awareness stream down your right arm and into your right hand and fingers. Notice the incredible sensitivity in your fingertips. Finally, bring your awareness to the area of your neck and your throat. This is a narrow bridge where so much tension can accumulate. With great care, notice the sensations here. Then move your attention into your face, an area with so many small, expressive muscles. Be aware of your jaw. Is it clenched? Can you allow a little space between your upper and lower teeth? Feel your lips, your tongue resting in your mouth. Be aware of your cheeks, your nose, the cool air at your nostrils. Soften the tiny muscles around your eyes. Feel your eyelids resting gently. Be aware of your forehead. Is it furrowed with worry? Can you allow it to become smooth and wide? Let your awareness travel over your entire scalp to the very top of your head. And now, for a final few moments, expand your awareness to include your entire body, from the soles of your feet to the crown of your head, all at once. Feel your whole body as a single, unified field of sensation. Breathing. You have simply walked through your own home, not as a critic, but as a loving caretaker. You have turned on the lights. And a strange thing often happens when we do this. The very act of shining the warm, non-judgmental light of awareness onto a clenched muscle gives that muscle permission to let go. When tension is met not with resistance, but with a kind and spacious attention, it often begins to soften and dissolve all on its own. You are not forcing relaxation, you are inviting it. You are creating the conditions for your body to remember its natural state of ease. As we quiet the mind with the breath, and we soften the body with this loving awareness, we create a space of deep stillness within. But sometimes, into this quiet sanctuary, more challenging guests arrive. These are not just fleeting thoughts or physical tensions, but raw, powerful emotions that we have stored away in the dark rooms of our inner home. Fear, sadness, anxiety, anger. To find a peace that is truly unshakable, we cannot simply ignore these guests or lock the doors when they knock. We must learn how to meet them. We must learn how to listen to them and how to embrace them with the same wisdom and compassion we have just offered our bodies. We have walked the quiet hallways of the body, shining the gentle light of awareness into its forgotten rooms. We have anchored ourselves in the calm rhythm of the breath. In this space of newfound stillness, we create an opening, an invitation, and sometimes visitors arrive who we have spent our entire lives trying to avoid. They are not thoughts which are like fleeting whispers, nor physical tensions which can be softened and released. These guests are powerful, elemental forces. They are the raw energies of our emotional life, the cold grip of fear, the heavy cloak of sadness, the hot fire of anger, the jittery tremor of anxiety. Our lifelong conditioning, our instinctive reaction when one of these difficult guests knocks on our door is to panic. We pretend we are not home. We bar the door, brace against it, and hope it will go away. We tell ourselves, I should not feel this way. I must not be anxious. I cannot be sad. We declare war on our own feelings. This internal battle is the very definition of the second arrow. The first arrow is the arising of the emotion itself. The second, and far more painful arrow, is our judgment and resistance against it. This resistance is not only exhausting, it is utterly futile. Trying to suppress an emotion is like trying to hold a cork ball underwater. The more forcefully you push it down, the more ferociously it will eventually burst back up to the surface, often at a time and place where you least expect it. The resistance to anxiety creates a new layer of anxiety. The anxiety about being anxious. The resistance to sadness creates a new layer of suffering, the shame of being sad. In our war against our own feelings, we are destined to lose, and in losing, we only deepen our suffering. The path of wisdom offers a radically different approach. It is not one of fighting, but of opening. It is not one of resistance, but of acceptance. Now, the word acceptance can be deeply misunderstood. It does not mean resignation or passivity. It does not mean that you like the feeling or that you want it to stay forever. It is not an admission of weakness. Acceptance is an act of supreme courage and profound intelligence. It is the willingness to look at what is real, right here and now, and to stop arguing with it. It is the simple, clear-eyed acknowledgement of what is present in your experience. Imagine it is raining outside. You can stand at the window and shake your fist at the sky, screaming, "It should not be raining." This changes nothing about the rain, but it causes you immense distress. Acceptance is simply looking out the window and saying, "It is raining, that's it." You are not judging the rain. You are not condoning it. You are simply acknowledging reality. Only from that place of clear seeing can you then make a wise choice, like picking up an umbrella. To accept an emotion is simply to say, anxiety is here now. Sadness is present. You end the war. This practice can be cultivated through a simple but profound process of turning towards our emotions rather than away from them. The first step is to recognize when a strong feeling arises, especially in the quiet of the night, instead of immediately being swept away by it. See if you can gently pause and put a name to it. Mentally, you can whisper to yourself, "This is anxiety," or "This is fear," or "This is loneliness." This simple act of naming is incredibly powerful. It immediately creates a space between you, the observer, and the emotion, the observed. You are no longer saying, "I am anxious," which is a statement of total identification. You are saying, "There is a feeling of anxiety present." In that small space, freedom is born. You are no longer the emotion. You are the awareness that perceives the emotion. The second step is to allow, or to accept. This is the opening of the inner door. Can you give this feeling permission to be here, just for a few moments, without needing it to change or disappear? You can say to yourself, "It's okay. This feeling can be here. I will make a little space for it." You are dropping the rope in the tug of war. You are taking your hands off the cork ball and allowing it to float on the surface of your awareness. This step requires courage because it goes against our every instinct for self-protection. But it is in this allowing that the energy of the emotion begins to lose its charge. It is no longer being fueled by the fire of your resistance. The third step is to investigate with kindness. This is not a cold, analytical investigation. It is a gentle, curious exploration. You can ask yourself, what does this emotion actually feel like in my body? This brings you out of the story in your head and into the direct, physical sensations of the present moment. Where does the anxiety live? Is it a tightness in your chest? A hollow feeling in your stomach? A buzzing energy in your hands? You simply meet these physical sensations with the same gentle awareness you cultivated during the body scan. You breathe with them. You are not trying to understand why you feel this way. You are simply becoming intimate with the raw, physical experience of how you feel right now. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh offered a beautiful and tender image for this process. He taught us to hold our difficult emotions the way a loving mother holds her crying baby. When a mother hears her infant cry, she does not get angry. She does not yell at the baby to be quiet or lock it in another room. Her heart fills with compassion. She goes to the baby, picks it up gently, and cradles it in her arms. She holds it close. She may not know exactly why the baby is crying, but her loving, mindful presence soothes the child. The baby feels seen, held, and safe, and often its crying subsides. We must learn to become this wise mother to our own inner child, to our own pain. When anger arises, we can mentally pick it up with our mindfulness. When fear cries out, we can hold it with our compassionate attention. We breathe with it, cradle it, and whisper, "I am here for you. I will not abandon you." This nurturing, this act of profound self-compassion is the ultimate antidote to the poison of the second arrow. It is how we heal. Ultimately, we come to see that our awareness is like a vast, open sky. It is boundless, clear, and fundamentally peaceful. Our emotions, both the pleasant and the unpleasant, are like clouds. Some clouds are white and fluffy, like joy and contentment. Some are dark and stormy, like grief and anger. The clouds drift into the sky. They may cover it completely for a time, but they are not the sky. They are just passing through. They can never stain, damage, or permanently alter the nature of the sky itself. You are the sky. You are not the storm cloud of your anxiety. It is simply a weather pattern passing through the vast, open space of your own being. By resting as the sky, you can allow all the clouds to come and go without being terrified of the storm. We have now learned to move from being at war with our emotions to becoming their compassionate friend and caretaker. We have learned to stop fighting, to recognize what we are feeling, and to hold our own suffering with the tenderness of a mother holding her child. This practice does not eliminate the first arrows of life, but it builds a profound inner resilience, a deep trust in our ability to handle whatever emotional weather may come. Having learned to embrace what is difficult with this gentle acceptance, we can now turn our attention to an equally powerful and complementary practice, the conscious, deliberate cultivation of what is beautiful. If acceptance is the act of making peace with the weeds in our garden, the next step is to learn how to actively plant flowers. We will now explore the practice of generating feelings of loving kindness, a warmth that can heal ourselves and radiate outwards into the world. Having learned to sit with our own bodies and embrace our difficult emotions with a tender acceptance, we have cultivated a passive form of peace. We have learned to stop fighting the inner wars, to lay down our arms and allow reality to be as it is. This is a profound and necessary foundation. But the path to deep, transformative rest does not end with passive acceptance. It invites us into an active, creative, and joyful practice, the deliberate cultivation of a warm and boundless heart. If the previous practices were about clearing the weeds of anxiety and resistance from the garden of our mind, this practice is about actively planting flowers. It is about generating a powerful, positive, emotional state that can repattern our brains, heal our relationships with ourselves and others, and create the inner conditions for profound peace. This practice is known in the Buddhist tradition as metta, which translates as loving kindness. Metta is not wishful thinking. It is not a denial of difficulty or a form of spiritual bypassing. It is a rigorous form of mental training, a kind of emotional physiotherapy for the heart. It is based on a simple but revolutionary premise that just as we can train our bodies to be stronger or more flexible, we can train our hearts to be more open, more compassionate, and more loving. We are so often at the mercy of our habitual emotional states, the recurring anxiety, the low-grade irritation, the persistent inner critic. These are like deep ruts in a muddy road. Our minds fall into them automatically. Loving kindness, meditation, is the practice of consciously and repeatedly carving new pathways, creating new, healthier ruts for the mind to follow. It is the practice of tuning our inner radio away from the static of fear and separation and onto the clear, warm frequency of connection and care. Modern neuroscience is now beginning to confirm what contemplative traditions have known for millennia. When we consistently focus our intention on generating feelings of goodwill and compassion, we physically change the structure of our brain. This is the principle of neuroplasticity. Our experiences shape our neural circuits. Studies on long-term meditators have shown that practices like metta can strengthen the areas of the prefrontal cortex associated with empathy, positive emotions, and emotional regulation. Simultaneously, it can calm the amygdala, the brain's ancient alarm system that is responsible for our fight-or-flight response. Anxiety, anger, and fear are all states rooted in a perception of threat. The amygdala is firing, telling us we are in danger. Loving kindness directly counteracts this. It activates our mammalian caregiving system, the same system that bonds a mother to her child. It fosters feelings of safety, connection, and trust, which are the physiological opposites of a threat state. It is like whispering to our nervous system, again and again, "You are safe, you are connected, all is well." This is not just a psychological comfort. It is a deep, biological calming that is the perfect antidote to the anxieties that keep us awake at night. Perhaps most importantly, metta is the direct antidote to one of the most poisonous sources of our suffering, the voice of the inner critic, that relentless narrator in our heads that tells us we are not good enough, that we have failed, that we are unworthy of love and happiness. This voice is the scorpion's venom we spoke of earlier. Loving kindness practice begins by turning its healing warmth directly onto ourselves, a radical act in a culture that often mistakes self-compassion for selfishness. But as the wisdom traditions remind us, you cannot pour from an empty cup. To offer genuine kindness to others, we must first learn to be kind to ourselves. To fill our own well is not selfish. It is the necessary foundation for having anything to offer the world. So, let us begin this practice. Find a comfortable position, just as you did before. Let your body be relaxed and at ease. You can begin by calling to mind an image of yourself. Perhaps you can picture yourself as a small, innocent child, deserving of love and protection. Or perhaps you can simply get a felt sense of your own presence, right here, right now. And then you begin to silently, gently repeat a series of phrases, like a mantra for the heart. The classic phrases are, "May I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease." Let us explore these phrases. As you say, "May I be safe," you are offering yourself a profound wish for protection, safety from outer harm, yes, but more importantly, safety from the inner harm of your own fear, your own self-judgment, your own harsh criticism. It is a wish to find sanctuary within your own skin. As you repeat, "May I be happy," you are wishing for a deep and authentic happiness, not the fleeting, conditional pleasure that comes from getting what you want, but a genuine contentment and well-being that arises from a peaceful heart. It is a wish for your own deep fulfillment. When you offer the phrase, "May I be healthy," you are extending a wish for the well-being of your entire being. Health in your body, freedom from sickness and pain, and health in your mind, freedom from the grip of anxiety, confusion, and despair. It is a wish for wholeness, and as you say, "May I live with ease," you are wishing for a life free from unnecessary struggle. It is a wish for grace, for the ability to navigate the challenges of life with less friction, less resistance, and a greater sense of peace and flow. Now, it is very important to acknowledge that for many of us, this first stage is the most difficult. When you direct these phrases towards yourself, you may feel nothing. The words may feel hollow, mechanical, or even like a lie. Your inner critic might chime in, saying, "You don't deserve this. Please know that this is completely normal. The practice is not about forcing a feeling, it is about setting an intention. The intention is the seed. Whether you feel it or not, by repeating the phrases, you are planting the seeds of kindness in the soil of your mind. If the words feel difficult, simply focus on the sincere intention behind them. If it is still too hard, you can try a different approach. You can bring to mind a being who loves you unconditionally, a grandparent, a beloved friend, or even a cherished pet. Imagine them sitting before you, directing these very wishes towards you. Feel the warmth of their love, their kindness, and allow yourself to receive it. Let their love be the starting point. The goal is simply to begin to touch that place of warmth within. After spending some time offering these wishes to yourself, the next stage is to expand the circle of kindness. Bring to mind a benefactor, someone in your life for whom you feel natural gratitude and respect. It could be a teacher, a mentor, a friend, or a family member who has been genuinely kind to you. Picture them clearly in your mind's eye. See their face, their smile, get a sense of their goodness. And now, direct the phrases of loving kindness towards them. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. As you repeat these phrases, allow your heart to genuinely offer these wishes. Feel the natural warmth of your gratitude and appreciation flow towards them. Notice how this feels in your body. This stage is often easier than the first, as it allows us to tap into our natural capacity for care. It helps to generate the actual feeling state of metta, which we can then use as a touchstone for the rest of the practice. Rest here for some time, bathing this dear person in the warmth of your goodwill. The third stage challenges us to stretch our hearts a little further. Bring to mind a neutral person. This is someone you see or interact with, but for whom you have no strong feelings, positive or negative. It might be the cashier at your local grocery store, the person who delivers your mail, a colleague you don't know well. We so often see these people as mere functions, not as full human beings. In this practice, you bring their face to mind, and you see them as a person, just like you. A person who also has hopes and fears, who also has a family, who also just wants to be happy. And you offer them the same wishes. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. This stage is a powerful antidote to the indifference and sense of separation that characterizes so much of modern life. It helps us to recognize the shared humanity in everyone we meet. We begin to see that, at the deepest level, everyone wants the same fundamental things. This realization breaks down the invisible walls we build between ourselves and others, fostering a sense of quiet connection with the world around us. The fourth stage is the most challenging, and it should be approached with great care and wisdom. In this stage, you are invited to bring to mind a difficult person. It is highly recommended that you start with someone who is only mildly irritating, not the person who has caused you the most profound harm in your life. As your heart strengthens through this practice over time, you may be able to work with more significant difficulties. Now, this is crucial. The purpose of this stage is not to condone their harmful actions. It is not necessarily to forgive them if you are not ready. The purpose of this stage is for your own liberation. Holding on to anger, resentment, and hatred is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It corrodes our own heart. It poisons our own mind. And it is a profound obstacle to our own peace and happiness. So, you bring this mildly difficult person to mind. You acknowledge the pain or irritation they may have caused. And then, you try to see them as a suffering human being caught in their own confusion, their own fear, their own ignorance. Their harmful actions arise from their own inner dukkha. And from this place of wisdom, you attempt to offer the phrases, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy, May you live with ease. This can feel almost impossible. If it does, you can modify the phrases. You might simply wish, may you be free from the suffering that causes you to create suffering for others. Or, may you find peace. You are wishing for them to be free from the very poisons that make them act in harmful ways. This is a radical act of compassion, one that begins to free you from the chains of your own resentment. If even this is too much, simply return your attention to yourself, your benefactor, or the neutral person. The practice is always one of gentleness. There is no need to force anything. There is a famous story from the life of the Buddha that perfectly illustrates the power of metta. The Buddha's jealous cousin, Devadatta, conspired to have him killed. He arranged for a notoriously wild and ferocious elephant named Nalagiri to be let loose on the path where the Buddha was walking. The elephant, maddened with intoxicants, charged towards the Buddha, terrifying everyone in its path. People screamed and ran for their lives. The Buddha's loyal attendant, Ananda, tried to stand in front of him to protect him, but the Buddha calmly told him to step aside. He then stood still, looked at the charging beast, and radiated a powerful, unwavering field of pure loving kindness. The story says that as the elephant entered this field of metta, it began to slow down. Its aggression melted away. It came to a stop before the Buddha knelt down and became completely docile, allowing the Buddha to gently stroke its forehead. This raging elephant, Nalagiri, lives within each of us. It is our own untamed anger. It is our consuming fear. It is our deep-seated anxiety that charges through our minds in the middle of the night. We cannot tame this inner beast with force or with hatred. We cannot fight fire with fire. We can only tame it by meeting it with the boundless, unconditional, and courageous warmth of loving kindness. By practicing metta, we become our own Buddha, capable of calming the most ferocious energies within our own hearts. This practice dissolves the illusion of separation that is the root of so much of our fear. It makes our heart a warm, safe, and welcoming place. And when the heart is warm and safe, the mind can finally feel at peace. And into that peace, sleep arrives, not as a prize to be won, but as a weary traveler, finally finding a welcoming home. This deep internal work of repatterning the heart creates a powerful sanctuary within. But this inner sanctuary is made even more stable when it is reflected in our outer world. We must now turn our attention to the physical space and the daily rituals that surround our rest, learning how to consciously shape our environment to support the peace we are so carefully cultivating inside. The human heart, when nurtured with loving kindness, becomes an inner sanctuary, a warm and welcoming space shielded from the harsh winds of fear and self-criticism. We have learned to generate this inner warmth, to tame the raging elephant of our own negativity with a gentle and courageous compassion. This internal work is the very core of our practice. Yet, our inner state is in a constant dialogue with our outer world. A chaotic, cluttered, and overstimulated environment will inevitably agitate the mind, no matter how much we have practiced. To truly create the conditions for deep and restorative rest, we must learn to extend the principles of mindfulness and intention outwards, shaping our physical space and our evening routines into a mirror of the peace we are cultivating within. This is the practice of crafting a sanctuary, of turning the simple act of going to bed into a sacred ritual. Consider how a traditional Zen monk prepares for a session of meditation. They do not simply rush into the hall and sit down. There is a precise and beautiful ceremony. They may first sweep the floor, each stroke of the broom a mindful action, clearing the space not just of dust, but of distraction. They may light a single stick of incense, the fragrant smoke a signal that this time is special, set apart from the ordinary flow of the day. They bow to their cushion, a gesture of respect for the practice and for the stillness they are about to enter. They carefully arrange their robes and settle their body, each movement deliberate and filled with purpose. This entire process is not separate from the meditation. It is the meditation. It is a conscious transition from the world of doing to the world of being. We can learn from this wisdom. Our own preparation for sleep can become just such a ceremony, transforming a series of mundane tasks into a profound ritual of letting go and coming home to ourselves. This sacred ritual begins with what we might call the great unplugging. Our modern lives are lived through glowing rectangles that flood our brains with information and our nervous systems with stimulation. Our screens are phones, tablets, computers, and television emit a blue spectrum light that is specifically designed to mimic daylight. This light sends a clear signal to our pineal gland to stop producing melatonin, the hormone of sleep. We are, in effect, telling our brains it is the middle of the day, right up until the moment we want to be deeply asleep. Beyond the light itself, the content we consume, the news, the dramas, the endless scroll of social media is engineered to keep our monkey mind in a state of high alert, swinging frantically from branches of outrage, envy, and desire. To expect the mind to instantly quiet down after this kind of stimulation is like expecting a storm-tossed sea to become glass calm in a single second. Therefore, the first act of our evening ritual is a conscious and compassionate transition. We must create a digital sunset, at least 1 hour and ideally 90 minutes before you intend to be asleep. You make a decision to turn off all screens. This is not a punishment or a deprivation. It is a profound act of kindness to your own nervous system. You are giving your mind the precious gift of decompression. As you power down your devices, do it mindfully. Acknowledge that you are closing the door on the world of work, of news, of other people's lives, and you are beginning the journey inward. You can replace the harsh blue light with soft, warm lighting from a lamp. You can replace the noise of the world with silence, or perhaps with gentle, calming music. This simple act creates a clear boundary, a signal to every cell in your body that the rhythm of the day is changing. The time for doing is over. The time for being has begun. Now, within this quiet, screen-free space, we can begin to transform our ordinary evening routines into mindful practices. Consider the act of brushing your teeth. Most of us do it on autopilot, our minds already racing ahead to the next thing. Instead, turn it into a 2-minute meditation. Feel the weight of the toothbrush in your hand. Notice the scent and taste of the toothpaste. As you brush, feel the sensation of the bristles on each tooth, on your gums. Feel the coolness of the water as you rinse. Be completely present with this one, simple, embodied task. You are not just cleaning your teeth, you are cleansing your palate of the day. The same principle can be applied to washing your face or taking a warm shower or bath. Instead of rushing, slow down. Feel the temperature of the water on your skin. Feel the texture of the soap or the washcloth. Notice the scent of the steam. Allow the water to not only cleanse your physical body, but to symbolically wash away the psychic grime of the day, the stressful meetings, the difficult conversations, the lingering worries. As the water drains away, you can imagine it carrying all of that accumulated tension away with it. When you change into your sleepwear, do it with intention. As you take off the clothes you wore during the day, you can imagine you are also shedding the roles you played, the responsibilities you carried. As you put on your soft, comfortable pajamas, feel it as an act of self-care, a gesture of wrapping yourself in comfort and safety for the night ahead. One of the most powerful parts of this evening ritual is a practice that directly addresses the planning, worrying monkey mind. This is the creation of what you might call a worry journal or a book of tomorrow. A few minutes before you get into bed, sit down with a simple notebook and a pen, and then perform a mental data dump. Write down anything and everything that is still buzzing around in your mind. Is there a to-do list for work tomorrow? Write it down. Are you worried about a particular problem? Write it down. Are you trying to remember to make a phone call? Write it down. The act of physically transferring these thoughts from your mind onto the paper is incredibly liberating. It is a concrete way of telling your brain, I hear you, this is important. It has been captured and it will not be forgotten. Your job is now done for the day. You can rest. This practice is like closing all the open browser tabs on your computer before you shut it down for the night. You release the mind from the burden of having to remember, allowing it to enter a state of repose. Finally, we must consider the bedroom itself. A sacred practice deserves a sacred space. As much as possible, the bedroom should be a sanctuary dedicated only to rest, sleep, and intimacy. When it becomes a multi-purpose room and office, a cinema, a gym, a dining room, brain receives mixed signals. The bed should not be associated with the stress of work emails or the stimulation of eating a meal. Keep the room cool, dark, and quiet. Minimize clutter, as a cluttered space can often contribute to a cluttered mind. The environment itself should be a clear and unambiguous signal to your nervous system. This is a place of peace. This is a place of surrender. This is a place for sleep. By weaving these elements together, the digital sunset, the mindful rituals, the worry journal, and the crafting of a sanctuary, we do something profound. We create a powerful, positive habit loop. The consistency of the ritual becomes a deep, conditioned signal to our entire being. Like Pavlov's bell, the sequence of warm light, gentle washing, and quiet reflection begins to automatically trigger a relaxation response in the body and mind. We are no longer hoping to stumble into sleep by chance. We are consciously and lovingly preparing the ground, creating a beautiful and sacred pathway that leads us gently from the world of doing into the world of being, from effort into ease, from wakefulness into deep, restorative rest. We have prepared the inner ground with a compassionate heart and the outer ground with a mindful ritual. We have created the most perfect and inviting conditions for the guest of sleep to arrive. But what happens when, despite all our best efforts, the guest is still hesitant to enter? What happens when our very desire for the result, our desperate need for sleep to come, becomes the final, most stubborn obstacle? We must now turn to the most subtle and powerful practice of all, the art of letting go of the goal itself. We have walked a long and patient path. We have learned to anchor the restless mind with the breath, to listen to and soften the tired body, to hold our difficult emotions with a mother's kindness, and to cultivate a heart of boundless goodwill. We have swept our inner home and crafted our outer world into a sanctuary, a sacred space, ready to receive the gift of rest. We have done everything right. The candles are lit, the music is soft, the house is quiet and warm. We have prepared a feast and invited the honored guest of sleep to arrive. And yet, we find ourselves standing at the door, peering anxiously into the darkness, wondering, why isn't it here yet? In this very posture of wanting, of waiting, of checking, we discover the final, most subtle, and most powerful obstacle of all, our attachment to the result. The entire journey has been undertaken in order to fall asleep. That purpose, however well-intentioned, carries within it the seed of striving, and striving is a form of tension. Sleep, by its very nature, is a state of utter surrender, a complete letting go of control. Herein lies the great paradox. You cannot try to surrender. The very act of trying is one of control, of effort, of will. It is the polar opposite of the state you are seeking to enter. The more you try to sleep, the more you are reinforcing the state of active, willful wakefulness. You are standing at the edge of a cliff, wanting to fall into the soft abyss of sleep, but you are refusing to let go of the railing. Imagine a person walking through the wilderness who unwittingly steps into a patch of quicksand. Their first instinct, born of pure terror, is to struggle. They flail their arms, kick their legs, and try desperately to climb out. But to their horror, they find that every frantic movement only makes them sink faster. The more they fight, the more the sand sucks them down. Their effort to save themselves is precisely what is killing them. A wise person who knows the nature of quicksand would do the exact opposite. They would stop struggling. They would cease all effort. They would lean back, relax their body, and spread their arms and legs wide, distributing their weight over the largest possible surface area. They would have to override every screaming instinct for survival and, in an act of supreme trust and surrender, allow themselves to float on the very substance that was threatening to consume them. That bed you are lying in at 3 in the morning is your quicksand. The state of sleeplessness is the trap, and your desperate mental efforts, the clock watching, the calculations of how many hours are left, the frustration, the anger at your own mind, the frantic search for a different position. This is the struggle. This is the flailing that sinks you deeper into the agitated state of wakefulness. The wisdom of the quicksand teaches us that the only way out is to stop fighting, to cease the struggle, to relax into the reality of the moment, however unpleasant it may seem. It is the ultimate counterintuitive act. To find freedom, you must first surrender. Ancient Chinese philosophy has a term for this profound wisdom, Wu Wei. It is often translated as non-doing or effortless action. It does not mean lazy passivity or doing nothing at all. It means acting in perfect harmony with the natural flow of the Tao, the underlying rhythm of the universe. A master of Wu Wei is like a skilled boatman who does not row frantically against the current. Instead, they understand the currents, the tides, and the winds, and they use those natural forces to guide their boat with minimal effort. They do not fight reality, they dance with it. Sleep is a natural force. It is a deep, biological rhythm, like the turning of the tides or the pull of gravity. It cannot be commanded. It cannot be forced. The attempt to force sleep is like trying to row your boat directly into a hurricane. Wu Wei invites us to stop rowing. It invites us to put down the oars of effort and control, and to trust that if we simply create the right conditions, the natural current of sleep will eventually carry us along. We have already done the skillful work of setting the sails and pointing the rudder in the right direction. Now, our only job is to wait, with patience and trust, for the wind to come. This leads us to a crucial, practical shift in our intention. For as long as you have struggled with sleep, your goal has likely been, I must fall asleep. This goal sets up a simple, brutal dynamic of success or failure. Every minute you remain awake is another minute of failure. This creates immense pressure, which in turn creates more wakefulness. The practice here is to consciously and deliberately change the goal. Let go of the goal of sleeping. Release it completely, and in its place, adopt a new, much gentler, and always achievable goal. For this moment, my only intention is to rest. This shift is everything. You can always succeed at resting. Lying still in your bed and feeling the breath move in and out of your body is a profound form of rest. Feeling the warmth under the covers is rest. Listening to the quiet sounds of the night without judgment is rest. Even being awake, if you are not fighting it, is a form of rest for the mind, which is no longer caught in the exhausting battle of resistance. When you make your goal simply to rest, you remove the pressure of performance. You can no longer fail. You are succeeding in every single moment that you are lying there peacefully. And the beautiful irony is that when the mind and body finally feel safe, when the pressure to perform is gone, When you are truly content with just resting, sleep often arrives unannounced. It is like a shy, wild creature that will only approach your camp when you are perfectly still, paying it no mind. The moment you turn your head to look at it, it vanishes back into the woods. This practice culminates in the radical acceptance of wakefulness itself. It is the final step in the quicksand. It is lying back, floating, and making peace with the situation completely. It is to say to yourself, with genuine calm, okay, it seems I am awake right now. I may be awake for another hour, or even for the rest of the night. Tomorrow, I may be tired, and if I am tired, I will handle it. I have been tired before, and I have survived. I will drink a cup of tea. I will move a little more slowly. I will be kind to myself, but I will not spend this present moment, the only moment I have, in a state of panicked worry about a future moment that has not yet arrived. When you can truly do this, you pull the plug on the anxiety machine. The fear of being tired is often far more exhausting and debilitating than the tiredness itself. When you accept the worst-case scenario, you drain it of all its terror. And in that spacious, fearless acceptance of wakefulness, you discover a peace that is independent of your circumstances. You find you can rest, truly rest, whether you are asleep or awake. This art of letting go, then, is the final turn of the key in the lock. It is the understanding that our relentless drive to control our own experience is often the very source of our suffering. It is the wisdom of the quicksand, teaching us that surrender is strength. It is the effortless flow of Wu Wei, teaching us to dance with reality instead of fighting it. And it is the gentle, compassionate shift in intention, from the stressful demand for sleep to the simple, achievable gift of rest. This profound act of letting go of a desired outcome in a single night opens the door to a much vaster, more fundamental truth. It points us toward the very nature of reality itself. If this state of sleeplessness that feels so solid and so terrible is not permanent, if it comes and goes, what does that teach us about everything else we cling to in our lives? We are now ready to explore the great liberating insight of impermanence, the art of letting go, of surrendering our desperate struggle for control, has brought us to a place of profound quiet. In releasing our grip on the goal of sleep, we have had our first taste of a freedom that is not dependent on circumstances. This experience is a doorway. It is a clue that points toward one of the most fundamental, liberating, and radical truths about the nature of existence. It is the wisdom of anicca, the universal law of impermanence. We often think of impermanence as a sad or morbid idea, associated with loss and death. But in the context of wisdom, it is the opposite. It is the key that unlocks the prison of our anxiety. Our suffering arises not from the fact that things change, but from our frantic and futile attempt to build a permanent fortress of happiness and security on the constantly shifting sands of reality. The wisdom of anicca is not about believing in a depressing philosophy. It is about learning to see the nature of the sand so that we can finally stop fighting it. You do not need to look far to witness this truth. You can observe it directly in your own experience, right now. Bring your attention, once again, to your anchor, your breath. Notice this single in-breath. It arises from silence. It exists for a few moments, and then it dissolves back into silence. It is gone forever, never to be repeated in exactly the same way. It is replaced by an out-breath, which follows the same pattern of arising, abiding, and ceasing. Your breath is not a static thing. It is a process, a constant, flowing river of change. Each breath is a complete lesson in impermanence. Now, bring your awareness to a sensation somewhere in your body, perhaps a feeling of warmth in your hands, or the pressure of your body on the surface beneath you. If you pay very close attention, you will see that even this sensation is not a solid, fixed thing. It pulses, it tingles, it changes in intensity. It may fade and then re-emerge. It is a flickering, vibrating field of energy. It is not static, it is anicca. Most importantly, turn your awareness to the contents of your mind, the very source of your nightly turmoil. A thought appears. In the middle of the night, a worrisome thought can feel like a solid granite boulder, a permanent and terrifying fixture in your mental landscape. But if you can resist the urge to grasp it and struggle with it, and instead just watch it with a patient curiosity, you will notice something miraculous. The thought shimmers, it loses its solidity, and it dissolves. It vanishes as mysteriously as it appeared. A moment later, a new thought arises. The same is true of emotions. A wave of anxiety may wash over you. It feels all-consuming, as if it will last forever. But it too is a process. It swells, it crests, it holds its shape for a moment, and then it begins to break apart and recede back into the great ocean of the mind. The panic you feel at 3 in the morning is not a permanent state. It is a temporary weather pattern. Knowing this, truly knowing this in your bones, changes everything. The root of our deepest suffering lies in our fundamental misunderstanding of this law. We live in a state of constant, low-grade warfare against the truth of impermanence. This war is fought on 2 fronts. The first front is clinging. When we experience something pleasant, a moment of joy, a feeling of peace, a compliment from a friend, a rare and perfect night of sleep, or immediate instinct is to grasp it. We clench our mental fist around it, trying to hold on, to make it last. We try to pin the butterfly to a corkboard, killing the very beauty and aliveness we were trying to preserve. When the pleasant experience inevitably changes, as it must, we suffer. We mourn its passing, and we immediately begin scheming to get it back, creating a cycle of craving and disappointment. The memory of last week's good sleep becomes a source of tonight's anxiety. The second front in this war is aversion, or resistance. When we experience something unpleasant, a difficult emotion, a painful sensation in the body, a night of tossing and turning, our immediate instinct is to push it away. We want it to be over. We declare it to be wrong, a mistake in the fabric of reality that must be corrected immediately. This resistance, this pushing against what is a profound source of tension and misery. It is the second arrow we fire at ourselves, again and again. Clinging to the pleasant and resisting the unpleasant are 2 sides of the same coin. They are both born from the delusion that things should be solid, permanent, and subject to our control. There is a timeless Taoist story that perfectly illustrates the wisdom of seeing beyond these fixed labels of good and bad. There was an old farmer who had a fine stallion. One day, the horse ran away. The farmer's neighbors came to console him. "What terrible luck," they said. The farmer simply replied, "Good luck? Bad luck? Who knows?" A week later, the stallion returned, and it brought with it a herd of wild horses. The neighbors gathered again, this time to congratulate him. "What wonderful luck!" they exclaimed. The farmer calmly said, "Good luck? Bad luck? Who knows?" The next day, the farmer's son was trying to tame one of the wild horses when he was thrown off and broke his leg. The neighbors came once more, shaking their heads. "Oh, what dreadful luck," they said. The farmer just looked at them and said, "Good luck? Bad luck? Who knows?" A few weeks after that, the emperor's army came to the village, conscripting every able-bodied young man for a war from which few would return. Because of his broken leg, the farmer's son was spared. The farmer's wisdom did not come from being able to see the future. It came from his deep understanding of impermanence. He knew that reality is a constantly flowing river, and that it is foolish to dip a cup into it, hold it up, and declare, "This is the river." The contents of the cup are already different from the river itself, which has flowed on. We are constantly trying to label moments as good or bad based on a single, frozen snapshot in time. A sleepless night is declared bad luck, but who knows? Perhaps in the stillness of that night, an important insight arises. Perhaps the exhaustion of the next day forces you to cancel a non-essential meeting, which saves you from further stress. We do not know the full story. To embrace impermanence is to let go of our rigid judgments and to become curious about the unfolding process of life. The liberation of anicca is the deep relaxation that comes from finally giving up the fight, when you truly know, not just intellectually but in your heart, that everything changes. You can begin to hold your life with a lighter touch. You don't have to panic when difficult times arise, because you know that the storm will pass. The agonizing feeling of being awake at 4 a.m. loses its terrifying, eternal quality. It is just a cloud. It is just the weather. And you know the weather always changes. This knowledge allows you to endure hardship with a grace and patience you didn't know you possessed. Conversely, when good times come, you don't have to cling to them with such desperation. Knowing they are fleeting, you can savor them more fully, more deeply. You can appreciate the beauty of the cherry blossom precisely because you know it will not last forever. To see impermanence clearly is to stop trying to swim against the current of the river of life. It is to learn, at last, how to float. It is a surrender, but not a surrender of defeat. It is a surrender to a truth so vast and so fundamental that to fight it is pure folly. This deep seeing into the nature of change, of anicca, naturally leads to another, even more profound question. If everything is constantly in flux, my thoughts, my feelings, my body from moment to moment, my experience is then who or what is this I that is experiencing all of it? If there is no solid ground to stand on, is there even a solid self who is standing? This question leads us to the very heart of Buddhist wisdom, to the liberating insight of not self. The river of impermanence flows through every aspect of our existence. Our breath, our bodies, our thoughts, and our emotions are all in a state of constant flux, arising and passing away from moment to moment. We have seen that our resistance to this natural flow is a primary source of our suffering. This deep insight naturally gives rise to an even more profound and unsettling question. If everything I experience is changing, if my thoughts are not solid, my feelings are not permanent, and my body is in constant renewal, then who exactly is this I that is experiencing all of this? Where is the permanent, unchanging self at the center of this whirlwind of change? This question leads us to what is perhaps the most challenging, counterintuitive, and ultimately liberating teaching in Buddhist wisdom, the truth of anatta, or not, self. To begin to understand this, let us first examine the role that the self, or the ego, plays in our daily lives, and especially in our sleepless nights. This sense of I is the main character in the drama of our suffering. It is the I who is failing at sleeping. It is the I who will be judged by others for being tired tomorrow. It is the I whose past is filled with regrettable mistakes and whose future is threatened by potential failures. Think of the specific worries that keep you awake. What will my boss think of me if I mess up the presentation? That is the ego protecting its reputation. I can't believe I said that stupid thing 10 years ago. That is the ego defending the integrity of its own life story. If I don't succeed at this, I am a failure. That is the ego's very existence being put on the line. This self is like a tireless and deeply anxious project manager whose entire job is to build, maintain, and defend the brand called me. It spends its days gathering evidence of its own importance, polishing its public image, and comparing itself to other brands. It spends its nights in a state of high alert, running threat assessments, reviewing past failures, and strategizing to avoid future humiliations. This is an exhausting 24-hour-a-day job, and it is the source of so much of the scorpion's venom that poisons our minds. The constant pressure to be smarter, to be more successful, to be better, to be perfect. This pressure comes from the belief that there is a solid, separate, and vulnerable self that we must protect at all costs. But what if this self we are working so hard to defend is, in fact, a case of mistaken identity? There is a famous dialogue from an ancient Buddhist text that beautifully illustrates this point. A Greek king named Melinda, a man of great learning, came to meet a Buddhist sage named Nagasena. The king arrived in a magnificent chariot. After they exchanged greetings, the sage Nagasena asked, "Your Majesty, how did you arrive here?" The king replied, "I came in a chariot." Nagasena then began a gentle line of questioning. He asked, "Is the pole of the chariot the chariot?" "No, venerable sir," the king replied. "Are the wheels the chariot?" "Number, is the axle the chariot?" "Number." Nagasena continued in this way, asking about the ropes, the reins, and every individual part of the chariot. The king answered no to each question. Nagasena then asked, "Then are all of these parts taken together the chariot?" The king, seeing where this was going, had to again say no. Finally, Nagasena asked, "Is there something else separate from all of these parts that is the chariot?" The king again had to reply, "No, venerable sir." Nagasena then concluded, "Chariot is simply a designation, a convenient name, a conceptual label that we use when all of these parts are assembled and function together. But if we search for the essential, independent chariotness, we cannot find it anywhere." Then, Nagasena delivered the crucial insight, turning his gaze to the king himself. The implication was clear. Just as with the chariot, so it is with the being you call King Melinda, and so it is with the being you call you. The self that we cherish, the I that we believe to be so solid and real, is, upon investigation, very much like that chariot. It is a convenient label we apply to a temporary collection of constantly changing components. We cannot find a permanent, independent, unchanging self anywhere in our experience. We are not a static noun, we are a dynamic process. Buddhist psychology deconstructs this process into 5 main components, known as the 5 aggregates or skandhas. Let us briefly conduct our own investigation, just as Nagasena did with the chariot, to see if we can find this solid self. First, there is form, our physical body. Is your self to be found in your body? Your body is a river of change. Cells are dying and being replaced every second. The body you have today is not the same body you had 7 years ago, or even yesterday. It is made of the food you ate, the air you breathe. It is a temporary collection of elements destined to age, get sick, and dissolve. So, the permanent self cannot be found here. Second, there is feeling, our sensations of pleasure, pain, and neutrality. Are you your feelings? We have already seen that feelings are like clouds, constantly arising and passing away. A moment of joy is replaced by a moment of sadness, which is replaced by a moment of boredom. They are utterly impermanent. So, the self cannot be your feelings. Third, there is perception, the faculty that recognizes and labels our experience. This is blue, that is a tree, this is a feeling of anxiety. Are you your perceptions? Your perceptions are conditioned by your culture, your language, your past experiences, and your current mood. They are not an objective report of reality. They too are in constant flux. So, the self cannot be your perception. Fourth, there are the mental formations, our thoughts, our ideas, our opinions, our biases, our habits, our intentions, our volitions. This is where we most often believe our self resides. But are you your thoughts? We have already met the monkey mind. Thoughts are wild, chaotic, and often contradictory. A thought arises and vanishes in an instant. To claim a thought as me or mine is like trying to claim ownership of a flash of lightning. So, the self cannot be your mental formations. Finally, there is consciousness, the awareness that arises when our sense organs meet a sense object. For example, eye consciousness arises when the eye meets a shape. Ear consciousness arises when the ear meets a sound. Consciousness is not a solid, independent thing, like a soul that inhabits the body. It is a function that is dependent on conditions. It flickers on and off, moment by moment. It is not a continuous, unchanging entity. So, the permanent self cannot be found here either. After searching through all 5 of these aggregates, through all the parts of our personal chariot, we are left with the same conclusion as Nagasena. We cannot find a solid, separate, permanent self anywhere. The I is a convenient designation, a useful story we tell ourselves to navigate the world. But it is not an ultimate reality. This is the liberation of anatta. So why does this matter? What does this have to do with sleeping at night? When you truly begin to absorb this insight, the entire project of the anxious ego begins to crumble. If there is no solid self to defend, who is it that needs to be protected from criticism? If there is no permanent self, whose reputation is at stake? If there is no essential self, who is it that is failing? The anxiety about what others think, the shame about past mistakes, the fear of future failure, all of these begin to lose their terrifying power because the target of all that fear, the I, is seen to be an illusion. It is like an army discovering that the fortress it has been desperately trying to defend is, in fact, empty. It can finally lay down its weapons. This brings an incredible sense of lightness, freedom, and ease. We can bring this profound insight into a very simple, practical application. When you are lying in bed and the familiar thought arises, "I am so anxious," see if you can gently reframe it in the light of this wisdom. Instead of identifying with the state, simply note its presence as an impersonal event. There is a feeling of anxiety present, or anxiety is arising. This simple shift in language moves you from being the victim of the story to being the calm observer of the process. It creates space. It brings peace. Seeing that we are not a fixed noun but a flowing verb, a dynamic process, leads us to a final, practical consideration. If we are a process, what shapes this process? What directs the current of this river of body and mind? This brings us to the practical and deeply misunderstood law of cause and effect, the law of karma. We will now see that we are not passive victims of fate, but active participants in the creation of our own experience, moment by moment. Through our every thought, word, and deed, we have journeyed deep into the inner landscape. We have explored the nature of the restless mind, the body that holds our tension, the emotions that visit us in the night, and the profound truths of impermanence and not self. We have seen that the I, we work so hard to defend, is more like a flowing process than a solid entity. This leads us to a crucial question. If we are a process, what governs this process? If our life is a river, what directs its current? Are we simply adrift, carried along by random forces, or do we have a hand on the rudder? The answer to this question lies in one of the most widely known, yet deeply misunderstood, concepts in Eastern philosophy, the law of karma. For many in the modern world, the word karma conjures up images of a cosmic balancing of accounts, a sort of supernatural justice system where an invisible scorekeeper doles out rewards for good deeds and punishments for bad ones. We think of it as fate or destiny, a pre-written script that we are forced to live out. This popular understanding of karma is a dramatic caricature of the profound psychological science the Buddha actually taught. To truly grasp its meaning is to move from a mindset of passive victimhood to one of radical empowerment. Let us first be clear about what karma is not. Karma is not fate. It is not the idea that your life is predetermined. In fact, it is the very opposite. It is the law that states that your future is shaped by your present actions, giving you the power to change your life in every moment. Karma is not a system of external punishment and reward administered by some divine authority. There is no cosmic judge, no karma police monitoring your every move. It is a natural, impersonal law, much like the law of gravity. If you hold a stone in your hand and let it go, it will fall. There is no judge commanding it to fall. It is simply the nature of gravity. In the same way, if you act with an intention of cruelty, the result will be a coarsening of your own heart and a painful state of mind. It is not a punishment from outside. It is the direct, natural consequence of the action itself. Furthermore, karma is not always instantaneous. While some actions have immediate results, many are like planting a seed. A farmer can plant a seed from a healthy tree, but it requires time, water, soil, and sunlight to grow. The result is not immediate. Similarly, our actions, words, and thoughts are seeds we plant in the soil of our consciousness. Some sprout quickly, while others may lie dormant for a long time, waiting for the right conditions to ripen. This explains the apparent injustices we see in the world. It is why we can't always draw a straight line between a single action and its immediate outcome. We are all living in a complex garden, experiencing the harvest of countless seeds planted in the past, while simultaneously sowing new seeds that will shape our future. So, if karma is not fate or cosmic justice, what is it? The Buddha's definition was precise and revolutionary. He said, "It is intention, O monks, that I call karma." Having intended, one acts through body, speech, and mind. The absolute heart of the law of karma is cetana, the Pali word for intention, volition, or will. The ethical quality of any action and, therefore, the result it will produce is determined primarily by the intention behind it. It is not just what you do, but why you do it. An accidental harm is profoundly different from a premeditated one, because the intention, the seed planted in the mind, is entirely different. We plant these intentional seeds through three channels, or three doors, of action: body, speech, and mind. The actions of the body are the most obvious: an act of generosity, an act of violence. The actions of speech are more subtle but no less powerful: a kind word that lifts someone's spirit, a harsh criticism that wounds them, a lie that creates confusion. But the most important, most constant, and most subtle channel of karmic creation is the mind itself. This is a crucial insight. Your thoughts are actions. Each thought that you consciously or unconsciously entertain is an act of intention, a seed being planted in your own mind. When you sit in silence and mentally rehearse an angry argument, you are performing an act of anger. You are strengthening the neural pathways of anger in your brain. You are watering the seed of ill will in your garden. When you indulge in fantasies of greed or jealousy, you are performing an act of craving. When you lie awake at night, consumed by a vortex of worry and self-criticism, you are engaged in a powerful, sustained act of creating negative, unskillful karma. Your inner monologue is a relentless karma-creating machine. The quality of your thoughts directly shapes the quality of your reality. Let us return to our metaphor of the mind as a garden. Your fundamental consciousness is the soil. fertile, and ready to grow whatever is planted in it. Every single intention, every thought, word, and deed is a seed. Throughout your day, you are constantly sowing. When you react to a difficult colleague with a flash of anger, you have just sown a thorny, bitter weed. When you mindlessly scroll through social media, comparing your life to the curated perfection of others and feeling a pang of envy, you have just sown a seed of dissatisfaction. When you cling to a desire, thinking, "I need this to be happy," you have sown a seed of craving. These are the unwholesome, unskillful seeds, rooted in the three poisons of greed, hatred, and delusion. All day long, you walk through your garden, scattering these seeds. Then, at night, you lay your head down in that same garden and wonder why you cannot find rest. You are trying to sleep in a field of thorns, nettles, and poison ivy. The restlessness, the anxiety, the agitation you feel is not a punishment. It is the natural harvest of the seeds you have spent your day sowing. But you have a choice. In every moment, you can choose to plant a different kind of seed. When you feel the familiar urge to react with anger, you can pause, take a breath, and choose instead to cultivate a moment of patience. In that moment, you have just planted a seed of peace. When you practice the loving kindness meditation, sending wishes of goodwill to yourself and others, you are scattering handfuls of flower, the seeds of compassion, connection, and warmth. When you perform a small, unheralded act of generosity, you plant a seed of joy. When you choose to turn your attention to the simple beauty of the present moment, you are planting a seed of mindfulness and wisdom. These are the wholesome, skillful seeds, rooted in generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. When you spend your day consciously cultivating this kind of garden, what happens when you lie down at night? You are now resting in a field of soft grass and fragrant blossoms. The atmosphere of your own mind is one of peace, warmth, and gentleness. The quality of your rest is a direct reflection of the quality of the garden you have tended. Your sleep, or lack thereof, becomes the ultimate feedback mechanism. It is the daily report card from your inner gardener. A restless night is not a failure. It is simply a compassionate message from your mind, telling you, the soil is filled with weeds. Let us try to plant more flowers tomorrow. In this understanding of karma is the ultimate call to personal responsibility and the ultimate message of hope. You are not a prisoner of your past. While you are certainly experiencing the results of seeds planted yesterday and yesteryear, the present moment is always fresh, always new, and always pregnant with possibility. The present moment is the only time that karma is made. Right now, you have the power to choose. You can continue to water the old, painful seeds of your conditioning, or you can choose to plant a new seed. You can choose to be mindful instead of distracted. You can choose to be kind instead of judgmental. You can choose to let go instead of clinging. Each one of these small, conscious choices is a powerful karmic act. It is a moment of rewiring your own brain. It is the most powerful form of creating the future you wish to inhabit. You begin to see your entire day not as a series of events that happen to you, but as a continuous stream of opportunities to practice, to plant skillful seeds. The annoying traffic jam is not a personal affront. It is an opportunity to plant a seed of patience. The difficult conversation is not a threat. It is a chance to plant a seed of compassionate listening. The feeling of tiredness is not a catastrophe. It is an invitation to plant a seed of self-kindness. Life is no longer a battlefield, but a garden, and you are the gardener. With this profound understanding, we move from a sense of being a victim of our sleepless nights to being an active creator of our own peace. Our restlessness is not a random affliction or a cosmic punishment. It is the lawful result of our own previous thoughts and actions. This knowledge is not a burden, but a liberation. It places the source of our suffering and the possibility of our happiness squarely in our own hands. We are the architects of our own inner world. Understanding this law, that every moment is a seed for the future, reveals the profound importance of our daily activities. The peace of our nights is directly determined by the quality of our awareness during the day. The formal practice of sitting on a cushion and meditating is essential, but it is only the training ground. It is where we learn to identify the seeds and how to cultivate the soil. The real work happens when we get up and walk back into our lives. We must now explore how to carry this mindful awareness into every simple act, transforming the entirety of our waking life into a continuous, peace-generating meditation. We have arrived at a profound understanding. We have seen that we are not the victims of a chaotic mind, but the gardeners of it. We have learned that through the law of karma, every thought, word, and deed is a seed we plant, which will one day ripen into the quality of our experience. A day spent sowing seeds of anger, distraction, and worry will inevitably lead to a night spent trying to rest in a field of thorns. A day spent sowing seeds of patience, kindness, and presence will create a peaceful inner landscape where rest can naturally flourish. This raises a crucial question. How do we practice this skillful gardening amidst the busyness and demands of our everyday lives? Many people hear the word meditation and immediately think of sitting cross-legged on a cushion in a silent room. They think of it as another task to add to an already overflowing to-do list. And in their discouragement, they conclude, "I simply don't have the time." This is perhaps the greatest misunderstanding about the path of mindfulness. Formal meditation, the act of setting aside a specific time to sit in silence, is an essential part of the training. It is like going to the gym to strengthen a particular muscle. In this case, the muscle is our attention, our capacity for present moment awareness. But the purpose of going to the gym is not just to be strong in the gym. The purpose is to use that strength in every other part of your life. Informal practice, or mindfulness in daily life, is how we use the muscle of awareness that we have built during our formal practice. The ultimate goal is to dissolve the boundary between meditation time and the rest of my life, so that our entire existence becomes a continuous, flowing meditation. The beauty of this approach is that it does not require you to find any extra time in your day. It simply asks you to bring a new quality of attention to the things you are already doing. The core principle is simple, consisting of two parts: intention and attention. Before beginning a routine activity, you can set a gentle, silent intention. For example, as you pick up your morning cup of coffee or tea, you can silently say to yourself, "For these next 5 minutes, I am just going to drink this tea. This is the only thing I am doing." This sets the stage. Then, you bring your full attention to the sensory experience of the activity. What can you see? What can you smell? What can you feel? You are not trying to have a special, mystical experience. You are simply returning home to your senses, to the reality of the present moment, which is the only place life ever happens. Let us explore how this can transform some of the most common activities of our day. Consider your first cup of coffee or tea in the morning. For most of us, this is a rushed, unconscious ritual. We gulp it down while simultaneously checking our phone, listening to the news, and already worrying about the day ahead. The drink is gone, and we barely tasted it. A mindful approach changes this completely. Before you take the first sip, take a moment to be present with the cup. Feel its warmth and weight in your hands. Look at the rich color of the liquid. See the steam rising from its surface, dancing in the air. Bring the cup towards your face and take a moment to inhale its aroma, letting it fill your senses. Then, When you take the first sip, do so consciously. Feel the warmth and the taste as it spreads across your tongue. Notice the sensation of swallowing, the feeling of the warm liquid entering your body. You may only do this for the first 3 sips, but in that single minute, you have stepped out of the frantic stream of the monkey mind and anchored yourself in the calm reality of the present. You have started your day by planting a seed of peace. This same practice can be extended to any meal. We call this mindful eating. Before you begin, take 1 or 2 conscious breaths. Look at the food on your plate. Notice the colors, the shapes, the textures. This food came from the earth, from the sun, from the rain, and from the work of many people. You can feel a moment of silent gratitude. As you take the first bite, chew slowly. Our habit is to chew 2 or 3 times and then swallow, but see if you can chew 10 or 20 times. You will be amazed at the explosion of flavors and textures you have been missing your entire life. Try putting your fork or spoon down between bites. This simple act creates a pause, preventing you from shoveling food in unconsciously. When you eat this way, you not only enjoy your food more, but you are also kinder to your digestive system. You notice when you are full, preventing overeating. You have transformed a biological necessity into a rich and peaceful meditation. You can practice this with any movement. Walking is a perfect opportunity. The Zen tradition has a formal practice called kinhin, or walking meditation, but you can practice it anywhere, as you walk from your car to your office, or down a hallway to a meeting. Bring your attention out of the worried thoughts in your head and into the soles of your feet. Feel the solid sensation of your foot making contact with the ground. Feel the rolling motion from your heel to your toe. Feel the subtle shift of weight from one leg to the other. Let the rhythm of your steps be your anchor. You don't need to walk in a strange or slow way. You are simply being present with the physical reality of walking. In these moments, you are not burdened by your destination. You are fully alive in the journey. Even the most mundane household chores can become profound practices. Washing the dishes is a classic example. Instead of seeing it as a tedious task to be rushed through, see it as an opportunity. Feel the warmth of the water on your hands. Notice the slippery texture of the soap. See the iridescent colors in the bubbles. Hear the sound of the water and the gentle clinking of the plates. As you scrub a plate clean, you can see it as a metaphor for cleansing your own mind. You are bringing order and clarity to your environment. And in doing so, you are bringing order and clarity to your inner world. A great Zen master was once asked by a student to reveal the secret of his enlightenment. The master simply replied, "When I am hungry, I eat. When I am tired, I sleep." The student was confused. "But master," he said, "doesn't everyone do that?" The master smiled and said, "Number. When most people eat, they are thinking of 100 other things. When they try to sleep, their minds are filled with 1,000 worries. When I eat, I just eat. When I sleep, I just sleep." This is the secret. It is the profound power of single tasking in a world that worships the chaotic inefficiency of multitasking. Multitasking is the native language of the monkey mind. It is a state of constant fragmentation and distraction, a guaranteed way to sow seeds of stress throughout your day. To choose to do one thing at a time, with your full, undivided attention, is a revolutionary act. It is how you tame the monkey. It is how you cultivate a mind that is calm, clear, and focused. A day lived in this way, punctuated by even brief moments of mindful presence, is fundamentally different from a day lived on autopilot. You are no longer accumulating a heavy burden of stress and mental fatigue that you then carry with you into the night. Instead, throughout the day, you are consistently discharging that stress, moment by moment, by returning to the present. You are planting seeds of peace, clarity, and tranquility. The mindful day is the best and most natural preparation for a restful night. You do not need a complicated routine to calm yourself down before bed if you have been cultivating calm all day long. Peace is no longer something you have to desperately search for when the lights go out. It is simply the natural atmosphere of the mind you have been tending to since you woke up. This practice of bringing our full attention to one thing at a time is a powerful shield against the internal chaos of the monkey mind. But in our modern world, we face a new and unprecedented challenge, a constant external assault on our attention, a digital storm that threatens to overwhelm even the most diligent practitioner. We must now turn our focus to one of the greatest sources of modern anxiety and sleeplessness, our relationship with technology, and learn how to create a mindful digital life. We have learned to bring a gentle, mindful awareness to the activities of our waking lives. We have discovered that the peace of our nights is cultivated in the conscious moments of our days. In practicing this, we have begun to build a beautiful inner garden. But every wise gardener knows that a garden must be protected. There is little point in planting delicate flowers if the gates are left wide open for wild animals to enter and trample them. In our modern world, we face a new and uniquely invasive species, one that can overrun the garden of the mind with incredible speed and efficiency. This is the endless, glittering, and deeply seductive jungle of our digital lives. Our smartphones and devices are portals to this new world, a realm that seems custom-built to enthrall the monkey mind. It is a jungle with an infinite number of branches to swing from endless feeds, hyperlinks, and notifications. It is filled with brightly colored, irresistible fruits, the dopamine hits of likes, shares, and shocking headlines. But this jungle is also filled with hidden predators. The anxiety of comparison, the outrage machine of the news cycle, the gnawing loneliness of superficial connection. It is essential to understand that these digital ecosystems are not neutral tools. They have been meticulously engineered by some of the most brilliant minds on the planet with one primary goal: to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible. Your attention is the commodity they sell to advertisers. It is not a personal failure that you find yourself endlessly scrolling, unable to look away. You are not weak-willed. You are simply a human being with a human brain up against a perfectly designed system of psychological manipulation. To find peace in this new reality, we cannot simply rely on willpower. We must cultivate wisdom. We must learn to become the skillful and discerning gatekeepers of our own minds. Let us think of our relationship with information in the same way we think about our relationship with food. Imagine what would happen to your body if you spent your entire day consuming nothing but junk food, a constant stream of potato chips, sugary sodas, and candy. You would feel jittery, bloated, and unwell. Your energy levels would crash, and your body would be starved of real nutrients. No one would consider this a healthy way to live. Yet, this is precisely how many of us consume information. We engage in a constant, mindless snacking on digital junk food. A quick hit of social media outrage here, a bite of celebrity gossip there, an empty calorie meme, a constant sipping on the anxieties of the 24-hour news cycle. We are feeding our minds a diet of pure overstimulation. And then we wonder why they feel so agitated, so restless, so unable to be still at night. The solution is not to stop consuming information, just as the solution to an unhealthy diet is not to stop eating. The solution is to adopt a healthy and mindful digital diet. This involves becoming conscious of what we consume, how much we consume, and when we consume it. It is about shifting from being a passive, unconscious consumer, mindlessly led by algorithms, to becoming an active, conscious curator of our own mental nourishment. This is an act of profound self-respect. This healthy digital diet can be built upon 4 pillars of practice. The first pillar is conscious consumption. This is about the what. It means taking stock of your digital information sources and making deliberate choices. Look at your social media feeds. Which accounts consistently make you feel anxious, angry, or inadequate? You have the power to unfollow, mute, or block them. It is your garden. You do not have to allow toxic weeds to be planted in it. Conversely, you can actively seek out sources that nourish you. Follow artists, poets, wisdom teachers, and nature photographers. Populate your digital world with content that inspires, educates, and genuinely connects you to a sense of beauty and goodness. A powerful practice to support this is what we can call mindful entry. Before you open any app or website, especially the ones you turn to automatically, pause for a single conscious breath. In that pause, ask yourself a simple question. What is my intention right now? Am I opening this app to find a specific piece of information? Am I looking to connect with a loved one? Or am I feeling a subtle pang of boredom, loneliness, or anxiety? And I am reaching for my phone as a way to numb that feeling, as a digital pacifier. There is no need to judge the answer. The simple act of asking the question breaks the spell of unconscious, reactive behavior. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your own attention. The second pillar is sacred time. This is about the when. It means creating clear, tech-free periods in your day. The most crucial of these, as we have touched upon, is the digital sunset. Designating the last hour or 90 minutes of your day as a completely screen-free period is one of the most powerful gifts you can give to your sleep. This allows your brain's melatonin production to begin naturally and lets your nervous system shift out of its hyper-alert state. Equally important is to create a digital sunrise. For the first 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up, resist the urge to immediately grab your phone. When you do that, you are plunging your newly awakened consciousness directly into a fire hose of other people's agendas, anxieties, and demands. Instead, allow your mind to wake up gently. Stay with your own breath, your own body, your own thoughts. Set your own intention for the day before you allow the world's noise to rush in. Beyond this, you might consider a digital Sabbath a longer period, perhaps a few hours on a weekend afternoon, or even a full day, where you deliberately unplug from all devices. You will be amazed at how the world comes alive again, how your own thoughts become clearer, and how your capacity for deep rest is restored when the mind is given this chance to truly reset. The third pillar is sacred space. This is about the where. We must create physical environments that are sanctuaries from the reach of technology. The most important sacred space is your bedroom. Make it a rule. The phone does not enter the bedroom, or at the very least, it does not come into the bed. Charge it overnight in another room, like the kitchen or the living room, by a simple, old-fashioned alarm clock. When your bed is no longer a place where you work, scroll, and argue, but is reserved only for sleep and intimacy, its power as a trigger for rest becomes immensely stronger. Another powerful sacred space is the dinner table. Make mealtimes a tech-free zone for yourself and your family. This fosters mindful eating, which aids digestion, and more importantly, it creates a space for genuine human connection, a nutrient our souls need far more than another glance at a screen. The fourth and final pillar is the curation of sound. This is about the how of our digital interaction. Our devices are designed to constantly call out to us, to summon our attention. Every ping, buzz, and ding from a notification is a digital tap on the shoulder, pulling our awareness out of the present moment and fragmenting our focus. This is a recipe for chronic, low-level stress. The practice here is simple and liberating. Turn off all non-essential notifications on your phone. You do not need to be alerted every time someone likes your photo or a new email arrives. You can decide when you want to check for that information. This simple act shifts the locus of control from the device back to you. You are no longer a firefighter, constantly reacting to alarms. You are the calm fire chief who decides when to visit the station. By practicing these 4 pillars, you begin a radical transformation. You move from being a passive victim of technology to being its mindful and skillful master. You are no longer allowing your precious attention, the very currency of your life, to be hijacked and sold to the highest bidder. You are reclaiming it as your own. You are consciously tending to the garden of your mind, building a strong fence to protect it from the invasive species of digital overstimulation. A mind that has been thus protected throughout the day, that has been fed a nourishing diet of conscious content and given periods of genuine rest, is a mind that is naturally calmer, quieter, and more prepared to surrender to the depths of sleep when night falls. By creating these skillful boundaries in both our physical and digital worlds, we build a robust container for peace. We have done everything in our power to prepare the ground for rest, but life, in its unpredictable nature, sometimes presents us with nights where, despite all our best efforts, sleep simply does not come. What then? Do we fall back into the old patterns of despair and frustration? The path of wisdom offers a different approach, one that transforms these long, dark hours from a trial into an opportunity for deep practice and profound insight. We have walked the path of preparation with great care. We have built an inner and outer sanctuary, tending to the gardens of our mind and our environment. We have done all the skillful things, and yet the moment arrives. The clock on the nightstand glows with a quiet, mocking light, proclaiming it is 3 in the morning, and you are starkly, undeniably awake. In this moment, a familiar cascade of feelings can begin. The sinking of the heart, the tightening in the chest, the wave of frustration, followed by the cold dread of the coming day. The old, painful story begins to play. Here I am again. I am failing at this. I am broken. This is the critical juncture. This is the moment where we can either fall back into the deep, well-worn ruts of suffering, or we can choose to step onto a different path, a path of wisdom and peace, even here, in the heart of the darkness. The first and most powerful practice in this moment is to consciously change the narrative. The story we tell ourselves about our experience literally creates the quality of that experience. The old story, I am suffering from insomnia, is a story of victimhood. It is centered on a solid, suffering I who is being afflicted by a terrible condition. It is a story that generates feelings of powerlessness and despair. The path of wisdom invites us to tell a new story, a truer story. As you lie there, awake, see if you can gently replace the old narrative. The new story might sound something like this. The body is awake right now. Energy is present. The mind is active. The world is quiet. This is a rare and unique opportunity. This is time that has been given to me for the practice of stillness. This is not a trick. It is not a denial of the difficulty. It is a profound reframing. You are shifting from seeing this time as a problem to be solved, to seeing it as a space to be inhabited. You are moving from a state of resistance to a state of acceptance. This conscious choice to change the story is a powerful karmic act. You are refusing to plant the old, familiar seeds of despair, and are instead choosing to plant a new seed of peace and curiosity. You are ceasing to be a victim of the night, and are instead becoming its student. This is not a failure to sleep. This is an invitation to practice. So, what does this practice look like? You have a toolkit, cultivated in the previous steps of our journey, which is perfectly suited for these quiet hours. There is no single right thing to do. The key is to choose a gentle practice and to release the goal of trying to fall asleep. The goal is now simply to practice. You might choose the path of the body. Instead of tossing and turning, which only creates more agitation and frustration, you can make the conscious choice to lie perfectly still. Let the body be completely at rest, even if the mind is not. And from this place of physical stillness, you can begin a slow, gentle body scan. Return your awareness to your toes, as we did before. Patiently, lovingly, travel through your feet, your legs, your torso, your arms, and your head. The intention is not to use it as a technique to force sleep. The intention is simply to inhabit your body with a kind and gentle presence. You are using this quiet time to become more intimate with your physical self, to listen to its subtle language, to bathe every cell in a warm, accepting awareness. You might choose the path of the heart. The silent darkness can be a perfect time to practice loving kindness meditation. The world is not making any demands on you. You can lie there and gently begin to offer the phrases of metta. You might start with yourself, which is especially powerful in this moment of difficulty. May I be at peace, even in this wakefulness. May I be free from struggle. May I be kind to myself in this moment. Then, you can expand the circle. Think of your loved ones, sleeping peacefully in their beds. Send them your wishes. May you be safe. May you be happy. You can even expand your awareness to think of all the other people in your city, or even around the world, who are also lying awake at this very moment, for reasons of loneliness, or grief, or pain, or worry. You can send them your heartfelt wish. May you also be at peace. May you also be free from suffering. In this way, you transform a moment of isolated misery into a profound experience of connection and shared humanity. You might choose the simple path of the mind, returning to your most fundamental anchor, the breath. Without needing to go anywhere or do anything special, you can simply rest your full attention on the natural rhythm of your breathing, the in-breath, the out-breath. You are not trying to get anywhere. You are just resting in the pure, simple reality of being alive and breathing in this moment. Every time the mind gets pulled away into a story about your sleeplessness, you gently, kindly return it to the anchor of the breath. This is the pure practice of taming the monkey mind, using the quiet of the night as your training ground. Or perhaps you might choose the path of skillful action. If you find that lying in bed is creating too much agitation, you can decide, mindfully, to get up. But you do not do this with a sigh of frustrated defeat. You do it with intention. You get out of bed slowly. You walk to another room. You might make yourself a warm, caffeine-free cup of herbal tea. You can sit in a comfortable chair and simply watch your breath, or read a few pages from a book of wisdom, not a thrilling novel or a work-related report, but something that nourishes your spirit. You stay there until you begin to feel a natural sense of sleepiness return, and only then do you mindfully walk back to bed. You are treating yourself with care, not punishment. Underlying all of these approaches is a crucial redefinition of the word rest. We have been conditioned to believe that the only valuable form of rest is unconsciousness, that sleep is the only state that recharges our batteries. But this is not true. A mind at war with itself, tossing and turning and generating stress hormones, is infinitely more exhausting than a mind that is awake but at peace. One of the most restorative states we can experience is one of deep, conscious relaxation. An hour spent lying still, practicing the body scan or metta meditation with a calm and accepting mind can be more refreshing than an hour of fitful, anxiety-ridden sleep. When you truly understand this, the fear of not sleeping begins to lose its power. You are no longer chasing a single, all-or-nothing outcome. You are simply choosing to rest, and you can succeed at that in every moment. There is a story of Bodhidharma, the monk who brought Zen Buddhism from India to China. It is said that he sat in a cave, facing a wall, and meditated in silent stillness for 9 years. The legend is not about the incredible feat of endurance. Its wisdom lies in the quality of his presence. He was not sitting there trying to achieve enlightenment. He was not struggling to get somewhere else. His goal was simply to be fully present with what was. His wakefulness was his practice. His stillness was the path. We can bring a small spark of that immense, unwavering spirit to our own wakeful nights. We can cease to see them as a curse, as a problem to be solved, as a sign of our failure. We can, instead, see them as a gift, a silent, sacred, and uninterrupted period of time in which the world finally leaves us alone, and we have the precious opportunity to simply be with ourselves. When we can find peace, even in our own sleeplessness, a profound shift in the heart occurs. Our focus on our own suffering begins to soften. We begin to look out at the world from this place of deeper peace and realize that we are not alone in our struggles. This personal practice of finding peace in the dark naturally blossoms into a wider sense of connection and empathy for all who suffer. We are now ready to expand the circle of our compassion. In the deep quiet of the wakeful night, we have learned to meet our own experience with a new tenderness. We have learned to sit with the body, to cradle our difficult emotions, and to find a peace that is not dependent on being asleep. A remarkable thing begins to happen when we truly practice this kind of self-compassion. The tight, claustrophobic focus on our own suffering begins to soften. The heart, no longer consumed by the drama of my pain and my problem, naturally begins to open outwards. We have planted the seed of loving, kindness, or metta for ourselves. Now, we can explore how this single seed blossoms into the full expression of an awakened heart, a state the Buddhist tradition calls the 4 divine abodhis, or Brahma Viharas. These are the 4 faces of boundless love: loving, kindness, metta, compassion, karuna, sympathetic joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. Having laid the foundation of metta, we can now invite its 2 closest siblings, karuna and mudita, into our practice, transforming the lonely hours of the night into a profound exploration of our shared humanity. Let us first turn to karuna, which is often translated as compassion. This is not the same as pity. Pity often has a subtle condescension to it, a sense of looking down from a position of strength at someone else's misfortune. Karuna is far more intimate. The word literally suggests a trembling or quivering of the heart in response to seeing suffering. It is not an intellectual idea. It is a felt resonance. It is the deep, embodied recognition of a shared vulnerability. It is the feeling that arises when you see another in pain and your heart whispers, I know what that feels like. Compassion is the realization that our suffering connects us, rather than separates us. The sleepless night is a perfect and powerful time to cultivate karuna. The practice begins with yourself. As you lie there, fully acknowledge the dukkha, the dis-ease, of your own experience. Feel the frustration in your tense muscles, the loneliness in the quiet room, the fear for the coming day. Meet this experience with a gentle, compassionate awareness, just as we have practiced. Now, from this place of acknowledging your own pain, begin to expand your awareness. Bring to mind the simple fact that at this very moment, you are not alone in this experience. In your own neighborhood, in your own city, scattered across the continents of this sleeping planet, there are millions upon millions of other human beings who are also lying awake. Gently, allow your imagination to touch their reality. Picture a new mother, exhausted, cradling a crying infant, her own need for sleep, a distant and painful memory. Picture an elderly man in a hospital bed, his body filled with a chronic pain that does not cease when the sun goes down. Picture a teenager lying in their room, their heart shattered by a first love, the pain feeling absolute and eternal. Picture a soldier, home from a war, whose mind is haunted by images that will not let him rest. Picture someone consumed by the grip of addiction, their body and mind crying out for a substance. Picture someone who has just lost a loved one, the silence of the night amplifying the deafening sound of their grief. Their stories are different from yours, but the underlying feeling, the pain, the fear, the loneliness is the same. In this moment, your personal suffering becomes a bridge, a doorway into the vast, shared ocean of human suffering. You are no longer an isolated island of misery. You are part of a great, hidden community of the wakeful and the wounded. From this place of deep connection, you can generate a heartfelt wish, not just for yourself, but for everyone. You can breathe in their suffering, and as you breathe out, you can send them your wish for peace. May all of us who are awake and in pain tonight be free from our suffering. May all of us find comfort. May all of us find peace. This practice is a profound alchemy. It takes the lead weight of your personal, self-centered suffering and transforms it into the golden heart of universal compassion. The tight knot of poor me dissolves into the spacious, warm embrace of we. The second practice we can explore in the quiet hours is mudita, or sympathetic joy. If karuna is the heart's response to suffering, mudita is the heart's response to happiness. It is the ability to feel genuine, unselfish joy in the good fortune, happiness, and success of others. In many ways, this can be an even more challenging practice than compassion. Our ego, our sense of a separate and competitive self, often feels diminished by the success of others. It gives rise to the poison of envy, the feeling of why them and not me. Mudita is the direct and powerful antidote to this poison. It is rooted in the understanding that happiness is not a limited resource. Another person's joy does not subtract from your own potential for joy. It is an expression of an abundance mindset, a celebration of the simple fact that happiness exists in the world. As you lie awake, this practice can be profoundly healing. Bring to mind someone who is, at this moment, likely enjoying the very thing you crave: deep, peaceful sleep. Perhaps it is your partner sleeping soundly beside you, their breath deep and regular. Perhaps it is your child in the next room, lost in the innocent oblivion of their dreams. It could even be a beloved pet, curled up and completely at rest. Instead of allowing the mind to fall into the rut of envy or self-pity, consciously choose to cultivate mudita. Look at them or picture them in your mind and allow a feeling of happiness to arise for them. Feel a genuine gladness that they are experiencing this profound peace and restoration. You can support this feeling with gentle phrases. I am so happy that you are resting so peacefully. It brings me joy to see you so content. May your sleep be deep and healing. May you awaken refreshed and well. Notice what this does to your own mind. The contracted, bitter state of envy is replaced by a warm, expansive state of generosity and joy. You are participating in their happiness, not feeling excluded by it. This practice frees you from the lonely prison of your own desires and connects you to the goodness that exists in the world, even if you are not experiencing it directly in that moment. It is a radical act of unselfishness that fills your own heart with a reflected warmth. There is a classic parable that illustrates the difference between a life lived in the contraction of self-interest and one lived in the expansion of compassion and shared joy. A holy man was given a tour of the afterlife. First, he was shown hell. To his surprise, it was a magnificent banquet hall filled with long tables laden with the most delicious and fragrant foods imaginable. The residents of hell, however, were emaciated and weeping in anguish. The man saw why. Each person had been given chopsticks that were 3 feet long. They could easily reach the food on the table, but because the chopsticks were so long, they could not get the food back to their own mouths. Their desperate, selfish struggle to feed themselves was their eternal torment. Then, the holy man was shown heaven. He was stunned to see that it was the exact same room, the same tables, the same delicious food, and the same 3-foot-long chopsticks. Yet here, everyone was happy, healthy, and laughing with joy. The reason was simple. In heaven, the residents had learned to use the long chopsticks to feed the person sitting across from them. The very instrument of their suffering in hell became the instrument of their joy and nourishment in heaven. This is the essence of karuna and mudita. Hell is the state of being trapped in my hunger, my suffering, my sleeplessness. It is the lonely, frustrating struggle of the isolated ego. Heaven is the state of realizing our interconnectedness. It is using our own experience, whether of pain or of joy, as a means to connect with others, to feed them, and in the act of feeding them, to be fed ourselves. By practicing compassion for those who suffer and feeling joy for those who are at peace, we shift our focus from the small, constricted self to the vast, interconnected web of all life. This expansion of the heart is a profound source of peace, a peace that can hold our own difficulties in a much larger and more loving embrace. To sustain these beautiful and expansive states of heart, to be able to meet our own suffering with acceptance and the suffering of others with compassion, requires a steady and balanced energy. It requires us to walk a path of wisdom, avoiding the pitfalls of extremism in our practice and in our lives. We must now explore the principle that forms the very backbone of the Buddhist path, the wisdom of the middle way. We have journeyed far into the landscape of the heart, learning to meet our own suffering with acceptance and the suffering of others with a trembling, compassionate resonance. We have learned to feel joy for the peace of others, expanding the circle of our goodwill beyond the narrow confines of the self. These are beautiful and profoundly healing practices, but to sustain them, to keep our hearts open when we are tired, stressed, and feel the old habits of fear and contraction pulling at us, requires a steady, resilient, and balanced energy. It requires us to find a path that is sustainable, not just for a week or a month, but for a lifetime. This path, which forms the very backbone of the Buddha's teaching, is the profound and practical wisdom of the middle way. To understand the middle path, we must first understand the extremes it avoids. The Buddha himself was an expert in extremes, having lived them both to their absolute limits. His own life story is the most powerful teaching on this principle. He was born a prince, Siddhartha Gautama, into a life of unimaginable sensual indulgence. His father, the king, terrified by a prophecy that his son would become a great spiritual leader instead of a powerful ruler, surrounded him with every imaginable pleasure. He had beautiful palaces for every season, the finest silks, the most delicious foods, constant music and entertainment. He was shielded from any sight of sickness, old age, or death. He lived for 29 years, at the very pinnacle of what the world considers happiness, a life dedicated to the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. And yet, in the midst of this perfection, he felt a deep and unsettling sense of emptiness. He realized that this path of sensual indulgence, of chasing pleasant experiences, did not lead to lasting peace. It was a temporary distraction, a beautiful cage that could not protect him from the fundamental truths of existence. This was the first extreme. Driven by his existential angst, he left the palace and threw himself into the opposite extreme, the path of severe asceticism. Believing that he could conquer suffering by punishing the body and crushing the will, he became a wandering ascetic and practiced the most extreme forms of self-mortification. He fasted until his ribs stuck out like the rafters of a dilapidated barn, until his spine could be seen through the thin skin of his stomach. He held his breath until he felt excruciating pains in his head and body. He slept on beds of thorns and exposed himself to the blistering heat of the day and the freezing cold of the night. He pushed his body and his willpower further than any of his fellow ascetics, seeking to break through to liberation by sheer, brutal force. After 6 years of this, he was near death, his body a mere skeleton, his mind no clearer than when he had begun. He realized with absolute certainty that this path also failed. Torturing the body did not purify the mind, it only weakened it, making wisdom impossible. This was the second extreme, the great turning point. The discovery of the middle way came in a moment of profound insight. Near death from starvation, he remembered a time from his childhood when he had been sitting effortlessly under a rose apple tree while his father performed a royal ceremony. In that memory, he recalled a state of natural, spontaneous peace and joy, a state that arose not from seeking pleasure or from inflicting pain, but from simple, balanced presence. He understood in a flash that the path to awakening did not lie in either indulgence or deprivation. It lay in a wise and balanced middle. He accepted a humble bowl of rice milk from a village girl named Sujata, an act that horrified his ascetic companions, who saw it as a betrayal. But with his strength restored, he sat beneath a Bodhi tree, not to torture himself, but to see clearly. And in that balanced state of body and mind, he finally awakened. Later, as a teacher, he would use a beautiful and simple metaphor to explain this path. He spoke of a lute player. If the lute string is wound too tightly, it will produce a sharp, unpleasant sound, and it will be in constant danger of snapping. If the string is too loose, it will not produce any sound at all. To create beautiful music, the string must be tuned just right, not too tight and not too loose. It must find the perfect, resonant balance. Our spiritual practice, and indeed our entire life, is like this lute string. The middle path is the art of tuning our lives for beautiful music. It is crucial to understand that the middle path is not a weak compromise. It is not simply finding the 50-yard line between two goalposts. It is a dynamic, razor's edge path of wisdom that transcends both extremes. It is not about being a little bit indulgent and a little bit ascetic. It is about finding a way of life that is skillful, balanced, and leads to genuine, sustainable peace. Let us see how this applies directly to our own quest for rest and well-being. When we embark on a path of healing, we are very susceptible to falling into one of the two extremes. The first extreme is that of spiritual asceticism, or what we might call the spiritual overachiever. This is the path of the tight string. This person hears the teachings on mindfulness and meditation and, with great enthusiasm, turns them into another project for the ego to conquer. They create a rigid, demanding schedule. I must meditate for 1 hour every single day, without fail. They use meditation apps and harshly judge themselves if their calm score is not high enough. They follow a strict diet and berate themselves if they have a single unhealthy snack. When they have a night of poor sleep, they see it as a personal failure. I didn't practice hard enough. I'm not disciplined enough. I need to try harder. The practice, which was meant to be a source of peace, becomes another source of stress, another performance to be graded. This is the tight string. It is brittle, joyless, and almost always leads to burnout and a feeling of failure, causing one to abandon the path altogether. The second extreme is that of sensual indulgence, or what we might call the defeated seeker. This is the path of the loose string. This person may try the practices for a few days, but when they don't see immediate, miraculous results, they give up. They conclude, this is too hard, It doesn't work for me. They then fall back completely into their old, unskillful habits, seeking momentary relief from their suffering. They stay up late, endlessly scrolling through their phone, seeking the distraction of the digital world. They eat whatever junk food they crave for a moment of pleasure. They might use alcohol or other substances as a crude tool to knock themselves out at night. This path offers a fleeting sense of ease or pleasure, but it generates no music. It is the loose string. It ultimately leads to more agitation, more ill health, and a deeper sense of being trapped in the cycle of restlessness. The middle path, the path of the wisely tuned string, walks between these two chasms. The wise practitioner understands that consistency is more important than intensity. They establish a gentle, sustainable routine. Perhaps they commit to just 10 or 15 minutes of meditation each day. On a particularly busy day, they don't beat themselves up. Maybe they only manage 5 minutes, or maybe just 3 conscious breaths before a stressful meeting. The key is that they don't break the thread of practice. They are gentle and flexible. When they have a bad night's sleep, they don't see it as a failure of their practice, but as part of the practice itself. They meet their tiredness the next day with self-compassion, not self-criticism. They ask, "What can I learn from this? Perhaps my string was a little too tight yesterday. Today, I will be gentler with myself." They understand that some days the practice will feel joyful and easy, and other days it will feel like walking through mud. They don't cling to the good days or despair on the bad days. They just keep showing up, gently and persistently. They are tuning the instrument of their own being, day by day. This wisdom of the middle path extends to all areas of our life. It is about finding a balance between work and rest, not falling into the extremes of workaholism or laziness. It is about our diet, avoiding the extremes of punishing restriction and mindless overconsumption, and instead finding a way of eating that is nourishing and joyful. It is about our physical exercise, avoiding a sedentary life on one hand and a punishing, injury-inducing regime on the other, and instead finding joyful ways to move our bodies. It is a holistic approach to well-being, one that understands that every aspect of our life affects every other aspect. The middle path is, ultimately, an act of profound kindness to ourselves. It frees us from the tyranny of perfectionism, which is one of the greatest sources of anxiety in our culture. It allows us to be human, to be imperfect, to have good days and bad days, without abandoning our commitment to ourselves. It is the path of sustainability, the path that can actually carry us all the way home to a place of lasting peace. Walking this balanced middle path requires more than just intellectual understanding and skillful effort. There will be times when the path is dark, when our efforts feel fruitless, and when the logic of the teachings seems distant. In these moments, we need another quality to sustain us, a different kind of strength. We need to cultivate a sense of trust in the path itself, a faith that is born not of blindness, but of wisdom. We must now explore the delicate and essential interplay between intelligent understanding and heartfelt faith. We have walked the middle path, learning to tune the instrument of our practice with a wisdom that avoids the extremes of harsh self-discipline and lazy indulgence. This path of balance is what makes our journey sustainable. But to walk this path, especially through its more difficult and discouraging terrains, requires more than just skillful effort and a balanced approach. It requires the cultivation of two complementary qualities that, like the two wings of a great bird, must work in perfect harmony to allow us to soar. These two wings are known as prajna, or wisdom, and shraddha, which can be translated as faith, trust, or confidence. In our modern, scientifically minded world, we are often very comfortable with the wing of prajna. We value reason, logic, critical thinking, and verifiable evidence. The wing of shraddha, however, can make us uneasy. We often equate faith with blind belief, with an uncritical acceptance of dogma, seeing it as the opposite of intelligence. But in the context of this path, this is a profound misunderstanding. Here, faith and wisdom are not adversaries, they are indispensable partners. Prajna, without the support of Shraddha, can become dry, cynical, and brittle. Shraddha, without the grounding of prajna, can become naive and unmoored. It is only when they are developed together, in a balanced and dynamic interplay, that they can carry us across the vast ocean of our own suffering to the far shore of peace. Let us first explore the wing of prajna. This wisdom is not the kind of knowledge you acquire by reading books or memorizing philosophical concepts. While learning about the teachings is a helpful first step, it is merely looking at a map of a beautiful country. True prajna is the direct, experiential wisdom that arises when you decide to actually travel to that country yourself. It is the aha moment that comes not from an idea, but from your own direct, undeniable experience. It is the wisdom of seeing for yourself. Throughout our journey together so far, we have been cultivating prajna at every step. When you sat and observed your own mind for the first time and saw its chaotic, monkey-like nature for yourself, that was a moment of prajna. You were no longer just hearing about the monkey mind. You were witnessing it directly. When you were lying awake and you noticed that the more you craved sleep, the more tense and awake you became, you were experiencing the second noble truth in your own nervous system. That was prajna. When you practiced the body scan and felt a chronically tight shoulder begin to soften under the gentle light of your attention, you gained the direct wisdom that awareness itself is a healing force. When you allowed a difficult emotion to be present without fighting it, and you felt its energy crest and then naturally subside, you had a direct insight into the wisdom of acceptance. When you saw that the most terrifying thought at 3 in the morning had vanished by noon, you had a taste of the profound truth of anicca, of impermanence. This is the scientific spirit of the path. The teachings are not presented as dogmas that you must believe. They are presented as hypotheses, as propositions to be tested in the laboratory of your own experience. The practice of mindfulness is the experiment. Prajna is the verified data that you collect. The Buddha himself encouraged this spirit of intelligent inquiry. His famous invitation was ehi passiko, which means come and see for yourself. Don't believe it just because it is written in a sacred text or spoken by a teacher. Come and see if it is true in your own life. This wing of wisdom is what keeps the path grounded, honest, and real. It is your own inner authority, the growing realization that you have the capacity to understand the nature of your own mind and to free yourself from your own suffering. But this wing of wisdom, powerful as it is, cannot fly on its own. It needs the strength, lift, and forward momentum of the other wing. Shraddha. We will translate Shraddha here not as blind faith, but as a confident trust. It is not a belief in something you have no evidence for. It is a confidence that develops from evidence. This confident trust arises from 3 sources. The first source is a provisional trust in the guide or in the map itself. If you were about to embark on a journey through a vast, unexplored wilderness, and a seasoned explorer who had crossed it many times before offered you a map, it would be wise to trust it at least enough to take the first few steps. The teachings of this path are that map. They have been drawn and refined by countless wise and compassionate explorers of the mind for over 2,500 years. Shraddha, in the beginning, is simply the willingness to trust the map enough to begin the journey, to take the first dose of the prescribed medicine to see if it works. The second, and more powerful, source of Shraddha is the trust that comes from your own initial results. This is where prajna begins to fuel Shraddha. When you take the medicine and your headache begins to ease, your trust in the doctor grows. When you follow the map and you arrive at the first landmark just as the explorer described, your confidence in the map deepens. In the same way, when you practice with the breath for just 5 minutes and you feel even a single moment of genuine calm, that is a small piece of evidence. That evidence builds Shraddha. It gives you the confidence to practice again tomorrow. When you reframe a difficult night from a failure to an opportunity, and you feel the suffering lessen, that direct experience builds your trust in the wisdom of the teachings. This creates a beautiful upward spiral. A little trust leads to a little practice, which yields a little wisdom, which in turn nourishes a deeper trust. The third and deepest source of Shraddha is a trust in the process itself. It is the confidence in the law of karma, the understanding that if you consistently plant wholesome seeds, a wholesome garden will eventually grow. This trust is beautifully illustrated by the parable of the person digging a well. If a person wants to find water, they cannot simply dig a shallow hole in one place, see no water, get discouraged, and then move to another spot to dig another shallow hole. They will end up with a field of useless pits and will remain thirsty. The wise person will consult the map. They will look for the signs of where water is likely to be found. Having chosen a promising spot, they begin to dig. For a long time, they may see nothing but dry, hard earth. It is difficult, tiring work. This is where Shraddha is essential. It is the unwavering confidence that cool, fresh water is down there, and that persistent, focused effort in one place will eventually reach it. It is the trust that keeps them digging through the hard, dry layers of doubt and discouragement. Our practice is this well. Our moments of insight are the signs of moisture in the soil. Shraddha is the quiet confidence that keeps us digging, knowing that the source of our own inner peace, our own living water, is there to be found. The true power of this path is revealed in the way these two wings, prajna and Shraddha, work together, especially when the journey becomes difficult. There will be times in your practice, as in your life, that can feel like a dark night. Periods when your meditation feels dry and lifeless, when the insights you once had feel like distant memories, when, despite your best efforts, you have a string of sleepless nights and the old feelings of despair return. In these moments, the wing of prajna can feel weak. Your direct, experiential wisdom may be clouded by fatigue and doubt. Logic and reason may fail to comfort you. This is the moment when the tight string of relying only on intellect can snap. It is precisely here that the wing of Shraddha must take the lead. It is the deep reservoir of trust you have built up during the brighter times that now carries you through the darkness. It is the quiet voice that whispers, "I don't feel it right now, but I trust this process. I have seen the evidence before. I know that this difficulty is also impermanent. I will just keep showing up. I will just keep digging, gently and patiently." Shraddha provides the resilience, the grit, the staying power. It is the quality that prevents the loose string of complete despair. It allows you to continue the practice without needing an immediate reward, trusting in the eventual result. At 4 in the morning, when you feel you are at your lowest, your intellectual understanding of the Four Noble Truths may not be enough to soothe you. It is your Shraddha, your deep-seated trust in the path of practice itself, that allows you to gently return your attention to your breath one more time, not as a desperate technique to get a result, but as a simple act of faith in the healing power of presence. Thus, these two qualities are not in conflict. They are in a beautiful, synergistic dance. Prajna, our clear-seeing wisdom, prevents our faith from becoming blind, superstitious, and dogmatic. It keeps our practice intelligent and grounded in reality. Shraddha, our confident trust, prevents our wisdom from becoming dry, arrogant, cynical, and brittle. It gives our practice its heart, its warmth, and its resilience. A bird with only one wing can only flutter and flop on the ground. To truly fly, to soar above the turbulence of our own minds and find the clear, open sky of liberation, we need both. With our practice now grounded in this balanced harmony of wisdom and trust, we are equipped to look at our entire journey in a new light. We can step back from the individual components and see how all these pieces, the mind, the body, the heart, our daily actions, and our deepest intentions, come together into a single, integrated whole. We are now ready to see our sleep, not as a separate problem to be solved, but as a perfect, holographic mirror, reflecting the total quality of our consciousness. We have walked a long and winding path together, a journey that began with a simple, painful problem, the inability to find rest in the quiet of the night. We have explored the frantic, chattering nature of the monkey mind, the deep truths of our shared human condition, the liberating laws of impermanence and not self, and the practical wisdom of karma, the middle path, and the beautiful balance of faith and wisdom. We have gathered a rich collection of tools for the mind and heart. Now, we arrive at a pivotal moment of understanding, a point where all these different threads weave together into a single, cohesive tapestry. It is the moment we realize that our sleeplessness was never the real problem. It was only ever a messenger. Imagine you are feeling unwell and you take your temperature. The thermometer reads high, indicating a fever. In your distress, you might become obsessed with the thermometer itself. You might try to cool it down with ice, or shake it, or wish for the number to be lower. But none of this would address the underlying infection that is causing the fever. The thermometer is not the illness. It is merely the instrument that is reflecting the illness. For most of us, our struggle with sleep has been like this. We have been fixated on the symptom-y tossing and turning, the hours spent awake. We have tried to fix our sleep, to force the reading on the thermometer to go down. The entire journey we have just taken has been a process of turning our attention away from the thermometer and toward the underlying infection. A consciousness caught in patterns of clinging and aversion, a mind at war with itself, a heart that has forgotten how to be still. This leads us to a new and profoundly liberating understanding. Your sleep is a mirror. It is a perfect, unflinching, and utterly honest mirror. It does not judge, it does not criticize, it does not lie. It simply and accurately reflects the state of your consciousness from the preceding day. If your waking hours have been filled with distraction, agitation, and mental chaos, if you have spent the day mindlessly consuming digital junk food, replaying angry conversations in your head, and living in a state of anxious, forward-leaning striving, then, when you look in the mirror of the night, you will see a fragmented, restless, and chaotic reflection. It cannot be otherwise. The mirror is simply showing you what is there. If, however, your waking hours have been infused with moments of presence, kindness, and skillful attention, if you have paused to feel the warmth of your morning tea, if you have listened with compassion to a friend, if you have met a moment of frustration with a conscious breath instead of a reactive outburst, then when you look in the mirror of the night, you will see a different reflection. You will see an image that is clearer, calmer, more coherent, and more peaceful. The crucial insight here is that you cannot change the reflection by polishing the mirror. No amount of sleep aids, special pillows, or desperate techniques applied at midnight can change the fundamental reflection of a mind that is in turmoil. The only way to change the reflection is to change the object being reflected. The only way to find lasting peace at night is to cultivate a life of greater peace during the day. There is a beautiful teaching story that illustrates this process perfectly. Imagine a lake whose water is naturally clear, still, and bright, but over time, the winds constantly stir up the mud from the bottom, and local villagers consistently dump their refuse into it. The lake becomes a muddy, murky, and inhospitable place. A person who wants to clear the lake might try many foolish things. They might try to grab handfuls of muddy water and squeeze the mud out, only to find it is impossible. They might try to pour buckets of clear water on top, only to see it immediately clouded by the murk below. The wise approach to clearing the lake is to do two simple things. First, you stop the pollution at its source. You persuade the villagers to stop dumping their refuse into the water. Second, you build a windbreak to protect the lake from the winds, allowing the water to become still. When these two conditions are met, when you stop adding new pollutants and you allow the water to be stiller, natural miracle occurs. You do not have to do anything else. The sediment, the mud that was suspended in the water, naturally and gradually settles to the bottom, and the water's own inherent clarity, which was there all along, reveals itself. Our mind is this lake. Its natural state, its Buddha nature, is clear, calm, and luminous. But we spend our days pouring in the pollutants of unskillful thoughts, words, and deeds, the refuse of greed, anger, and ignorance. And we constantly stir up the mud with the winds of our restless, agitated monkey mind. Then at night, we are dismayed to find our consciousness is a murky, muddy mess. The practice of wisdom is the process of clearing this lake. The practices of karma and the middle path, of having a healthy digital diet and being mindful in our daily actions, are how we stop pouring in new pollutants. The practices of meditation, of anchoring in the breath, and letting go of struggle, are how we allow the water to become still. Peace of mind is not something we have to create, build, or import from outside. It is our natural state, which we uncover by ceasing to disturb it. And deep, restorative sleep is simply what happens when the waters of the mind are finally clear and still. This shifts our entire orientation. We see now that the initial goal we started with, the desire for better sleep, was just the bait. It was the skillful hook that got us interested in this path, the surface level problem that pointed us toward a much deeper, more meaningful undertaking. The real goal is not to sleep better. The real goal is the transformation of consciousness itself. It is about becoming, day by day, a person who is a little less reactive, a little more compassionate, a little more present, and a little more at peace with the beautiful, flowing, impermanent nature of life. When this becomes the goal, the benefits ripple out into every corner of our existence, far beyond the confines of the bedroom. In our relationships, we become better listeners because we are more present. We become more patient and forgiving because we understand our own suffering and the suffering of others. In our work, we become more focused and creative because our minds are less fragmented by distraction. We are less shaken by stress and pressure because our sense of self is no longer on the line in every interaction. Our physical health improves as the constant, corrosive drip of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline is reduced. We begin to live a life that is not just less stressful, but more vibrant, more meaningful, and more filled with joy. Sleep, in this new paradigm, becomes a welcome and beautiful side effect. It is the natural bonus that comes from a life lived with greater wisdom and care. We no longer chase it. We simply create the conditions for it, and then allow it to arrive. A gentle guest visiting a home that is finally ready to receive it. We began with a problem, and we have discovered a path. We started with a symptom, and we have discovered a new way of being. We now understand that our sleep is the mirror, and our waking life is the face it reflects. By tending to the quality of our awareness in each moment, we are not just preparing for a better night, we are creating a better life. This realization that peace is a moment-to-moment practice, not a final destination, is both liberating and challenging. It means the work is never truly done. Life, with its inherent impermanence, will continue to present us with storms, with illness, with loss, with unexpected crises. The true test of our practice is not how peaceful we are when the seas are calm, but how we navigate our ship when the inevitable gales arise. We must now turn our attention to maintaining our practice in the midst of life's storms. We have come to see our lives not as a problem to be solved, but as a garden to be tended. Our sleep not as a prize to be won, but as a mirror reflecting the quality of our days. This understanding brings a deep and abiding sense of peace. In the beginning of our practice, this peace can feel like a revelation, a spiritual honeymoon phase, where the world seems brighter, the mind is quieter, and we feel as if we have finally found the secret to a life free from suffering. It is a beautiful and necessary stage. But the law of anicca, of impermanence, which we have explored, guarantees that the calm seas will not last forever. The practice is not a one-time inoculation against the challenges of human existence. The storm will come. This is not a pessimistic prediction. It is a simple statement of reality. Life is a dynamic, unpredictable, and often difficult process. The winds will rise, the waves will crash, a frightening medical diagnosis will arrive, a cherished relationship will end, we will lose a job we depend on, a loved one will die, a global crisis will shake the foundations of our security. These are not signs that our practice has failed. They are not interruptions to our spiritual path. These storms are the path. This is the final exam. This is the very reason we have been practicing all along. We do not practice meditation to get good at meditating. We practice meditation to get good at life, especially when life is hard. Imagine that your life is a long voyage across a vast ocean. Your daily practice, the moments you spend sitting in silence, the mindful breaths you take during the day, the acts of kindness you choose to perform is the process of building a boat. Each time you sit to meditate, you are carefully laying another plank on the hull. Each time you practice the body scan, you are sealing the joints to make them watertight. Your mindfulness of the breath is the heavy, reliable anchor that can hold you steady when the waves begin to swell. Your wisdom, your prajna, is the rudder that allows you to steer a skillful course. Your faith and your energy, your shraddha and virya, are the mast and sails that catch the winds of the teachings and propel you forward, even when you feel lost. Your commitment to the middle path is the compass that keeps you from being driven onto the rocks of extremism. The crucial point is this: you do not build your boat in the middle of a hurricane. You build it on the calm, ordinary days. You build it when the sun is shining and the sea is placid. You build it when it feels like you don't even need a boat. Those seemingly mundane 10 or 15 minutes you carve out each day are the most important work you can do. You are not just having a moment of peace. You are forging the vessel that will carry you through the inevitable tempests. When the storm hits, when the diagnosis is delivered, when the grief arrives, it is too late to start building. The work then is to get into the boat you have already built, to trust in its sturdiness, to take hold of the rudder of wisdom, and to navigate the waves with courage and skill. The storm may still be terrifying. The waves may toss you violently, but you will not sink. This brings us to one of the most ancient and potent parables for resilience: the story of the mighty oak tree and the humble reed. A great oak tree stood on the bank of a river, its massive trunk and thick branches a symbol of strength and permanence. It looked down with a certain disdain at the slender reeds growing by the water's edge, which swayed and bent with every tiny puff of wind. One night, a furious storm descended. The wind howled with incredible violence. The oak tree, in its pride and rigidity, resisted the storm. It pitted its immense strength against the force of the gale, holding its ground, refusing to yield. The wind pushed harder and harder, until finally With a great, splintering crack, the magnificent oak tree was snapped in two and fell to the ground. The next morning, the storm had passed. The mighty oak was a ruin, but the humble reeds, which had simply bent to the ground, yielding to the overwhelming force of the wind, stood upright again, glistening in the sun, unharmed. The rigid oak tree is the untrained ego. When a life storm hits, the ego's first reaction is resistance. This should not be happening. This is not fair. I cannot accept this. It tries to stand strong against the undeniable reality of the first arrow, and in doing so, it fires volley after volley of second arrows at itself. It is this resistance to reality, this proud and rigid refusal to bend, that causes it to break under pressure. It shatters into the pieces of anger, despair, and victimhood. The flexible reed is the mind trained in wisdom. It does not mean the mind is weak or passive. The reed has deep roots. This is its commitment to practice. But its stalk is flexible. When the storm of a terrible event arrives, the wise mind does not waste its energy fighting the reality of the wind. It accepts the first arrow. This is happening. This pain is here. This fear is real. It yields. It bends. It allows the powerful emotions of grief, fear, or anger to move through it without resisting them. It uses the anchor of the breath and the body to stay grounded, even as it is bent to the ground. Because it has an intimate understanding of anicca, it knows that the storm, no matter how ferocious, is impermanent. It will pass, and by yielding to the storm without breaking, it preserves its strength. When the crisis has passed, it can slowly, gently return to an upright position, perhaps a little weathered, but whole and fundamentally unharmed. To be the reed is to embody the wisdom of acceptance, the resilience of non-resistance. How, then, do we cultivate this quality of resilience in our daily lives? The key is found in a principle that runs counter to our modern culture of cramming and intense, short-term effort. The strength of our boat and the flexibility of our reed are not built in a single, heroic session of practice. They are built through small, consistent, and often unspectacular daily efforts. The myth of the spiritual life is that we can somehow cram for a life crisis, that we can meditate for 10 hours the day after a tragedy and find instant peace. The reality is that 5 minutes of genuine, heartfelt practice every single day over the course of years is infinitely more powerful than sporadic, heroic efforts. It is like saving money. A person who deposits just $1 into an account every single day will, through the power of compounding interest, accumulate a far greater fortune than someone who waits and deposits $1,000 only once a decade. The daily practice is how we build our spiritual capital. Each conscious breath, each moment of choosing patience over anger, each small act of kindness is a deposit into our account of peace and resilience. You can integrate this into your life through the simple practice of touching in. You do not need to be sitting on a cushion to practice. While waiting for a kettle to boil, you can touch in with your breath for 3 cycles. While waiting in line at the grocery store, you can touch in with the feeling of your feet on the floor. Before you send a stressful email, you can touch in with your intention. These are micro meditations, lasting only a few seconds, but they are incredibly powerful. They are like constantly checking the rigging on your boat, tightening a loose rope here, patching a small hole there. They keep your practice alive, integrated, and ready. It is also essential to remember the wisdom of the middle path. When we inevitably fail, there will be days, or even weeks, when you forget to practice. You will get swept up in the drama of life. The storm will hit, and you will react like the oak tree, full of resistance and anger. You will fall. This is guaranteed. The practice is not about never falling. The practice is about what you do after you fall. Do you stay on the ground? berating yourself for your failure, firing more second arrows of self-judgment? Or do you, with the kindness of a mother helping her child who has stumbled, gently help yourself back up, brush off the dust, and take the next step? The true measure of a mature practice is not the absence of failure, but the presence of self-compassion in the face of failure. It is the commitment to get up one more time than you fall down. Therefore, the path of practice does not offer us a magical shield that will make us immune to the pain and difficulty of life. It does not promise a life without storms. What it offers is something far more realistic and far more valuable. It offers us a vessel, strong and resilient, that can navigate the fiercest storms without sinking. It offers us the flexibility of the reed, the ability to bend under the pressures of life without breaking. It teaches us that peace is not the absence of the storm. Peace is the ability to find a calm and unwavering center in the very heart of the storm. By learning to navigate the inevitable tempests of our personal lives with this flexible, resilient spirit, we prepare ourselves for the final and most profound contemplation of all. We are ready to turn our gaze towards the ultimate expression of our practice, a life fully lived, a consciousness fully awake, and a heart that is at peace with the great, mysterious journey from birth to death. We are ready to explore what it means not just to sleep well, but to awaken fully to our lives. Here we are, at the culmination of a long and intricate journey. We began in the dark, in the lonely and frustrating space of a sleepless night, with a simple, practical desire, the desire for rest. We sought a cure for an ailment, but the path of wisdom is rarely a straight line. In our sincere search for the simple remedy of sleep, we have stumbled upon something infinitely more profound. We have discovered that the path to a peaceful night is inseparable from the path to a peaceful life. And the path to a peaceful life is, in fact, the path of awakening. We have come to understand that there are two kinds of sleep, and therefore two kinds of awakening. The first is the familiar, biological sleep of the body. Its opposite is the physical wakefulness of our daily lives. This is the realm we have been so concerned with. But beneath this surface level, there is a second, deeper kind of sleep. It is the metaphorical sleep of ignorance, the state of living on autopilot, of being driven by unconscious habits and conditioned reactions. It is the sleep of a mind that does not know itself, a heart that is closed off to the world. The opposite of this state is not just being physically awake, it is being spiritually awakened. It is the opening of an inner eye to the true nature of reality. The great secret we have uncovered is that our earnest attempt to solve the first problem, the problem of biological sleep, has been the very thing that has set us upon the path to healing the second, deeper problem, the sleep of an unconscious life. Our insomnia was the compassionate alarm clock we never knew we needed. Let us look again at the experience of deep, dreamless sleep. It is more than just a physical shutdown. It is a nightly dissolution of the self. In those precious hours, the relentless narrator in our head, the anxious project manager of the ego, finally goes silent. The I, with all its stories, its fears, its ambitions, and its grievances, temporarily vanishes. There is no past to regret, no future to fear. There is only a state of pure, restful being. The profound sense of restoration we feel after such a sleep comes not just from cellular repair, but from this temporary liberation from the exhausting, full-time job of being me. The practices we have learned of meditation, of mindfulness, of letting go, a way of accessing this profound state of rest while we are conscious. When you sit in silence and watch your thoughts arise and pass away without identifying with them, you are tasting that same freedom from the ego. When you rest in the simple anchor of the breath, you are experiencing a peace that is not dependent on your life story. You are learning to access the deep, silent, background awareness that is always present behind the noise of the thinking mind. This awareness is like the deep, still water at the bottom of the ocean, which is untroubled by the storms raging on the surface. Deep sleep is a nightly reminder that this peaceful depth exists within you. It is a gateway, a hint, a pointer towards the unshakable rest that is your true nature. The path of wisdom is the path of learning to live from this deep, quiet place, even when your eyes are wide open. In this light, our entire journey from sleeplessness to peace can be seen as a grand metaphor for the spiritual path itself. The sleepless night, with its frantic, repetitive, and uncontrollable monkey mind, is a perfect image of what the Buddhist tradition calls samsara, endless, exhausting cycle of suffering driven by our ignorance, craving, and aversion. It is the feeling of being trapped, of running in circles, of being a prisoner in the jail of our own mind. The teachings and practices we have explored, the Four Noble Truths, the Middle Path, the cultivation of compassion are the raft we have built, the magga, or the path that allows us to cross the turbulent river of our own confusion. The moments of letting go, of surrendering the struggle, are the moments of insight, the first glimpses of the far shore, and the experience of peace. We have found the ability to rest calmly, whether we are asleep or awake, is a taste of nirvana. Nirvana is not some faraway, heavenly paradise we go to after we die. It is a psychological state, available to us in this very life. It literally means to extinguish, and what is extinguished are the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion that fuel the frantic activity of the monkey mind. It is the end of our inner war. By courageously facing the personal and seemingly small problem of insomnia, you have actually been walking the universal and noble path from suffering to liberation. Your struggle has not been a meaningless affliction. It has been a sacred journey. What then is the ultimate destination of this journey? What happens when one awakens fully? We can look to the story of the Buddha himself. After his great awakening under the Bodhi tree, after he had completely extinguished the fires of his own suffering and touched a state of profound and boundless peace, he was faced with a choice. One part of him was tempted to simply remain in that blissful state forever, to abide in that perfect peace, leaving the messy, suffering world behind. But another part of him, a part born of a deep and limitless compassion, Karuna looked back at the world of suffering beings, at all of us still trapped in our sleepless nights, and made a different choice. He chose to get up. He chose to walk back into the world, to find those who were suffering, and to spend the next 45 years of his life sharing the map he had discovered. This is the ultimate teaching. True awakening, the final fruit of this path, is not an escape from life. It is a full, wise, and compassionate engagement with life. It is not about retreating to a mountaintop to remain in a state of permanent, undisturbed bliss. It is about bringing the peace of the mountaintop back into the marketplace, into our families, into our workplaces, into our troubled world. The goal is not to become a stone, unaffected by the joys and sorrows of the world. The goal is to develop a heart so vast, so open, and so resilient that it can hold the entire spectrum of human experience, the beauty and the pain, the joy and the grief, with an unwavering peace and a loving, tender presence. It is to be the calm eye in the center of life's storm. It is to be the reed that bends but does not break. And so, we arrive not at an end, but at a new beginning. The journey we have undertaken in exploring these teachings is not about arriving at a final destination called cured or enlightened. It is about committing ourselves to a continuous, lifelong process of waking up. The goal is not to perfect the practice. The goal is for the practice to perfect us. You have now received the map and the tools. You have been introduced to the wise and compassionate gardener within you. The rest of your life is the garden. Every moment from now on is an opportunity to practice. Every breath is a chance to return to the present. Every conversation is a chance to plant a seed of kindness. Every challenge is an opportunity to cultivate wisdom. Every hour of wakefulness in the night is a sacred invitation to deepen your practice, to touch that place of stillness that lies beneath all the noise. The positive transformation that you first sought is not waiting for you in some future state of perfect, uninterrupted sleep. It is available right now, in the quality of attention you bring to this very moment. Peace is not something you achieve, it is something you inhabit. Wisdom is not something you acquire, it is something you uncover. And awakening is not a distant event. It is the simple, radical act of being fully present with your life, just as it is. This, then, is the journey. From a simple desire for rest, we have uncovered a path to a life of greater presence, purpose, and peace. We have gathered the tools, we have understood the map, and we have taken the first crucial steps. Let us now, in our final moments together, summarize the essence of this transformative path and reaffirm the profound power that lies within each of us to awaken to the boundless potential of our own hearts and minds. We began this journey together in the dark, in the quiet desperation of a sleepless night. We began with a mind that felt like a storm, a body that felt like a prison, and a heart that felt a deep sense of dis-ease. We started with a simple question: how can I find sleep? And in our sincere search for an answer, the path has led us through the vast and intricate landscape of our own inner world. We met the frantic monkey of our own mind and learned to greet it, not with anger, but with a gentle, knowing smile. We looked courageously at the nature of our own suffering and discovered that its roots were not in our circumstances, but in our own habits of clinging and resisting. We found a timeless anchor in the simple, humble rhythm of our own breath, a sanctuary that is always available, in any moment. We learned to listen to the wisdom of our bodies, to cradle the pain of our hearts with a mother's tenderness, and to plant the beautiful seeds of loving kindness for ourselves and for all beings. We journeyed deeper still, into the very nature of reality itself. We saw that our lives are like a flowing river of impermanence, and that our attempts to grasp it only cause us to suffer. We investigated the very nature of the self we work so hard to defend, only to find it as marvelously empty as a chariot without its parts, a process to be experienced rather than a fortress to be guarded. We learned that every moment is a choice, a seed we plant that shapes our future, and that peace is found not by adding more to our lives, but by being more fully present with what is already here. And so, we arrive at the profound and simple truth that lies at the heart of this entire journey. The question was never truly about how to get to sleep. The real question was always, how can I find peace? We have discovered that peace is not a destination you arrive at, or a treasure you find. It is an inner quality that you cultivate, like a patient gardener tending to the soil of the mind. And deep, restorative sleep is not a prize to be won through struggle and effort. It is a gentle guest. It is a shy creature that arrives, unbidden, only when it knows it will find a quiet, safe, and welcoming home within you. You cannot chase it. You can only prepare your home, open your door, and allow it to enter in its own time. The power to do this lies nowhere else but within you. It is not in a pill, a device, or a secret technique. It is in your own innate capacity for awareness, for kindness, for wisdom. It is in your willingness to befriend your own mind, to be compassionate with your own heart, and to be patient with your own journey. The path does not begin tomorrow, or when your life is less stressful, or when you finally have more time. It begins now. It begins with your very next breath. Each conscious inhalation, Each gentle exhalation is a step on the path. Each moment you choose presence over distraction, kindness over judgment, acceptance over resistance. You are deepening your practice. You are clearing the waters of your inner lake. The journey home to yourself has already begun. May you walk it with courage, with patience, and with great kindness. May you find your rest in the dark of the night and in the light of the day. And may you, in turn, awaken fully to the precious, fleeting, and boundless beauty of your own life.